last Monday at this time. He should be. He got a win. Bill Clark will join us at 1 o'clock. We'll get his thoughts on a very interesting weekend of college football. We start with what happened down in Tuscaloosa, and the best way to put it is that Alabama was extremely fortunate to not be on a 2-game losing streak as they head into the third Saturday in October. It was a disappointing afternoon if you were looking for Alabama to rebound. Yes, a win is a win, but there are continued problems, especially on the defensive side of the ball. They continue to give up huge swaths of yardage. They can't get off the field on third down. It was a little bit better against South Carolina than Vanderbilt, but it just was not the kind of game that you needed Landrum for them to bounce back and try to propel themselves into the second half of the season.
No, it was boneheaded mistakes, some decisions that hurt Alabama in that game. But you mentioned it, and that was the most obvious on third and long when you should be getting off the field, or second down and long, and there's just these open pockets in the middle of whatever you're playing, whether it's swarm or whatever defensive coverage. And maybe if you're Kane Womack, you've got the right coverage called, and it's just a lack of execution. I did see some players with it, whether it was a face mask on a big would-be sack and other things that happen. But it just seems to be not a disconnect, but it's just a fragmented. You're not getting that solid 4 quarters from this Alabama football team. And you can even go back to Georgia, Conrad, in the win. It's just inconsistency at times. You were able to get away with it at home against South Carolina, but now as you start dialing into the rest of the schedule and some of the other potential pitfalls or hurdles for this team, there's got to be a growing concern that there are more L's on the way.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think there's any doubt about that. It was an ugly performance, and you can say, some of the things that carried over from the Vanderbilt game, there were things they did better. I mean, honestly, up until the last 2 minutes of the first half, Alabama was playing pretty well, right? They could have put more points on the board, but you're up 14-0. The defense was looking pretty sharp, and then it all just kind of unraveled from there. And, for all the things that we pointed out on the Vanderbilt game, and it seemed like guys weren't in position. There wasn't the intensity. Vanderbilt just had a good game plan and Alabama couldn't adjust to it. Now you look at the situation and you go, all right, well, the coaching staff is making mistakes now. Why are you calling a timeout with 10 seconds left in the first half on a 3rd and 20? Why are you not just going into the half? Why do you have guys that, I get it, you want to put points on the board, but late in that football game, you have a play where Jeremy Bernard goes in bounds at the 1-yard line. You take a knee, you're out of there. There's no onside kick. There's no late interception that you have to have. So on top of all the frustrations and concerns that carried over defensively, not being able to run the football offensively, now you have seemingly boneheaded coaching decisions to go along with that. And I think that only adds to the frustration of Alabama fans.
Alabama only had 57 yards of total offense in the second quarter. 57. That's it. The last 103 seconds of the first half, true freshman cornerback Zay Mincy whiffed in coverage and allowed an easy 36-yard touchdown. Then Jalen Milroe committing intentionally grounding for his safety. Coach Kalen DeBoer then called timeout with 10 seconds left with one last shot at the end zone. Interception. 12 points in the last 2 minutes by South Carolina. Game should not even been close. Game should have been done. Half the stadium should have been emptied out at your nearest local watering hole, enjoying the afternoon. That game should have been over with. But instead, South Carolina has a ray of hope. They come out in the second half. They drive 85 yards on 16 plays. They take the lead. They were 5 of 5 on third down. On the drive, coming out of halftime. 5 for 5. And Conrad just mentioned what happened at the end of the game. Inexcusable on an onside kick. You had multiple players to be able to smother it. Then at the end of the game, if Malachi Moore had not told him to run it out of the end zone, it would have been a safety and you'd have gone to overtime. And I think we probably all would have probably understood that this game probably would have ended up being a South Carolina win if that would have happened. It was just that type of afternoon. It reminded me a lot of what we saw last year at times. The Arkansas game last year reminded me a lot of this year's South Carolina game. The Texas A&M game last year reminded me a lot of the South Carolina game. So for all these people that want to throw daggers at Kalen DeBoer, in which there is criticism that is warranted, let's not act like this Alabama team last year under Nick Saban was the 2011 or 2012 edition of this Alabama football franchise, because it wasn't. It's just the fact that you had the greatest coach of all time on the sideline, so that everyone just kind of mirrored that. They just kind of masked what the situation was. But there is no doubt about it that this football team has got a lot of things to try to clean up. Now, the good news for them is they're going to a place to where, it was a house of horrors the last time they were there, and it was a shootout. But this Tennessee team's got problems in its own right. The last 2 weeks has absolutely shown that this football team has got warts just like the Alabama football team. So it'll be very interesting as we move along throughout the week and start concentrating on that on that game instead of looking back to what happened with South Carolina, because that one's going to be very interesting. Alabama's a favorite on the road at Neyland against Tennessee. Florida should have beat them.
Yeah,
Florida,
they should have.
Just like I know a lot of people are saying, well, South Carolina should have beaten Alabama. Well, same thing could have been said with Florida. So
the thing that you worry about is after seeing this Tennessee offense in Fayetteville and then against Florida, and I realize those are two different defenses. Tennessee did not perform that great at home. You wondered that this is a get-right game. And being the Alabama week and being there inside of that stadium and what an environment that's going to be, that it was just a matter of time. And now Josh Heupel and that offense is going to get rolling. That would be my biggest concern as an Alabama fan.
Well, when you look at South Carolina, right, going into it, we all knew, they can't throw the football, right? Lenora Sellers is great with his legs, but not great at throwing the football. Well, all he had to do was play against Alabama and kind of found some confidence. So that's something that, definitely I think concerns you going into the Tennessee game is it's, okay, they've had struggles offensively, but the last 2 weeks they played defenses that are better than Alabama's right now.
Also in that game, Tide only had 104 rushing yards against South Carolina. 313 total yards. South Carolina had 9 tackles for loss in that football game.
Kennard had the day of his life.
Yeah, he made a lot of money yesterday.
He was fantastic.
So Alabama does survive 27-25, but for me, as I'm sitting there looking at it, you still had clock mismanagement. Even when Alabama, they're still snapping the ball when they're should be milking the clock. Milroe is still waiting. Well, not waiting, but he's snapping the ball with 8 or 9 seconds left on the play clock. You would think of someone with as many games under his belt like Milroe has, the situational awareness that he does not have about certain things. The one niche on him that people criticized him last year before the season started is Nick Saban drove him crazy at practice because Milroe continued to make the same mistakes over and over and over and over and over again. It was absolutely maddening what was happening, but he was performing better than Simpson and everybody else in that quarterback room. But when you get into this guy having as many snaps as he has had as quarterback at Alabama, and that internal clock still does not go off at times, and he takes sacks or he does the unthinkable and takes a safety in the end zone. And how many times did he roll into the exact area that South Carolina was bringing the pressure?
Mm-hmm.
Those are the type things that are driving the offensive guys crazy about Jalen Milroe. I can just tell you that. I know that for a fact.
Well, because you look at some of the throws that he made, I think in the third quarter, he had that one throw to Ryan Williams in the red zone where, it was on a rope, like in between 2 defenders, a perfect throw. And you watch that and you go, okay, so the talent's there, right? Like he has the ability to make the right decisions. And then you look at the interceptions that he threw where it's there's high school quarterbacks that don't make that decision. And it's just, you can make the spectacular play and also the dumbest play you've ever seen back to back.
For the most part, the offensive line kept him clean. I was looking at some of the Pro Football Focus statistics from yesterday or from Saturday. So he was 15 of 18 when he was not being pressured. Milroe was 1 of 6 for 13 yards, no touchdowns, no interceptions when he was pressured. Now, the 2 interceptions he threw, he was clean. The offensive line, the pass protection was there, but he was 15 of 18, 196 yards, 1 touchdown, 2 interceptions when he was being pressured. But he was 1 of 6 when he was being pressured. So the offensive line, for the most part, did their job, but there were just times that you saw him roll the wrong direction, literally into the coverage that he should have been able to identify when he's back there, surveying the landscape before he snaps the ball.
How much of that is South Carolina changing the picture right before the snap, or how much of that I would love to know if that was Jalen Milroe. He was just having a mental off day.
I don't know. It was bizarre listening to Milroe after the game because he made no sense. The 2.5, 3 minutes of the press conference, when they asked him pointed questions about kind of what you're talking about, he just talked about, everybody, we're on the same page and we practiced hard and we saw.
He's the most coach speak player I think I've ever heard.
Yeah, I mean, it is like way over the top.
Are he and Ryan Williams, are they in a little tiff?
I don't know, but Ryan Williams was only targeted 4 times before the fourth quarter. 4 times.
You got to force feed that guy. I don't care. I know the defense is aware of it.
Doesn't matter. Other defenses have known that he's going to get the ball.
Exactly, and it hasn't mattered.
Yeah, he's that good.
Wouldn't we all say that Georgia was, at the time, that Georgia was the best defense that Alabama had played?
Yeah, he made them look stupid multiple times. Yeah. You tell me you can't do that against South Carolina?
He was targeted 4 times. 4 before the fourth quarter. That's it. So this is Reaction Monday. We'd love to hear from you. 1-800-239-WJOX, the courtesy GMC text line 205-834-9450.
Well, something that might cheer you up if you're an Alabama fan like myself and a bourbon connoisseur is that at Twin Peaks all month long, they are proud to offer you an exclusive and extensive collection of bourbons, whiskeys, and tequilas. And you can check out their barrel selects that are hand selected by the team there in Hoover just for you. So get into Twin Peaks all throughout the month of October and see what they will pour up for you. They also sponsor our daily 3-man front Twitter poll question of the day. And Molly, what is our Reaction Monday poll question?
After narrowly escaping with a win Saturday, what will Alabama's regular season record be? Will it be 11-1, 10-2, 9-3, or 8-4? And right now, winning with 43.3% is 9-3. 10-2 is in second with 31.5. Oh, the voting just changed. 11-1 with 13%, and 8-4 with 12.5.
So it's pretty interesting. Almost 50% of the audience believe Alabama is going to lose at least 2 more games during the regular season, something that we have not seen or many people have predicted in many, many years at the University of Alabama. But right now, the audience of 3-man front say that best case scenario, Bama's 9-3. How did you vote, Conrad? 9-3 or 8-4?
I voted for 9-3. I haven't seen anything the past couple of weeks that would make me think otherwise. Now, if they beat Tennessee, might change my opinion a little bit, but as of right now, yeah, this looks like a team that's going to lose multiple games.
9-3.
This is a pretty good football team. That's it. They're pretty good.
Well, some folks would kill to be pretty good, or even average,
and I agree
even
with
mediocre at this point.
I mean, let's just face it. I mean, what happened to UAB on Saturday was an embarrassment. It continues to be an embarrassment every Saturday. What's happening to that UAB football team? That was a complete and utter embarrassment, disgrace to football. What happened in Tuscaloosa was not an embarrassment. It was not disgusting. It was unfortunate, if you're an Alabama fan, that they're not playing the way or the expectations of this football team, but at least they're not absolutely getting embarrassed like the team on the South Side is, because that's bad. It's awful. So
no other way to frame it.
So sorry, some folks don't like the adjectives. You are what your record is. So take that for what it's worth. This is Reaction Monday. Your calls, your texts are next. So Alabama will be taking on Tennessee this weekend. Tennessee's opponent from the previous weekend, the Florida Gators, hard-fought loss in overtime. More bad news in Gainesville as Graham Mertz has been announced that he will be lost for the season due to a knee injury. So things just continue to get worse and worse for this Florida Gator football team. And listen, we were just talking about some of the mismanagement of what took place in Tuscaloosa this weekend. If you watched what took place in Knoxville, Florida had an 11-play, 72-yard drive that ate up 6 minutes and 4 seconds off the clock in the second quarter. On its next drive, got 0 again on a 7-play, 79-yard drive. Then they had the whole debacle at the end of the first half, and you got 0 points again after taking over on the Vols 11-yard line. Those are 3 situations that you could have at least come away with 3 points. That's 9 points, if not more, taken off the board against Tennessee.
And we all would have gone for 2 at the end of the game, right?
On the road, I would have gone for 2.
Yeah.
Well, you have Hugh Freeze coming up at the top of the hour, his live press conference from Auburn, Kalen DeBoer at noon. Both of those brought to you by our friends at Evolve IT. Birmingham, when it comes to your technology, don't settle for anything less than a winning team. At Evolve IT, they're your MVPs for all things tech, network management, cybersecurity, and keeping your business systems running smoothly. No fumbles, no downtime, just expert support right here in Birmingham. That's the biggest difference. A lot of these IT companies, they're national. This is local. So when you have a problem here, you're going to have people here standing by, ready to take care and helping you. Evolve IT is ready to take your tech game to the next level. Online at evolvebhm.com or call now to score your IT touchdown today.
So you can take with the statistics from Pro Football Focus. Some people, they value their opinion. Others think it's trash. I'm just reporting and telling you what I read on Pro Football Focus with their premium stat data that they provide every Sunday morning. The game Saturday for Alabama was technically the worst game tackling-wise that Alabama has played this year. They missed 11 tackles against South Carolina. They had 9 missed tackles against Vanderbilt. They had 8 against Georgia, 4 against Wisconsin. They had 10 against South Florida and 9 against Western Kentucky. So 11 missed tackles against South Carolina. Only 4 against Wisconsin.
Woohoo!
On the road in Madison, but you had 8 against Georgia.
They're just not a physical football team, which is shocking. And I think that's one of the biggest problems is you just don't, I mean, how many times when you watched Alabama this year, you go, man, that was a good hit they just put on somebody. It doesn't happen. And I don't know what the disconnect is, but there just doesn't seem to be that intensity, especially on the defensive side of the ball. They're not going after guys.
Well, I think we all can agree that if we're sitting here in the middle of the summertime and we said, okay, we're going to do a show on October the 14th, the third Saturday in October is upcoming for Alabama, and Bama is sitting at 5-1. How many Alabama fans would take that right now?
Probably a lot of them.
Because everybody would assume, well, we lost to Georgia.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
We lost to Georgia, but we're 5-1. So Alabama's exact record is what a lot of people thought the record was going to be right now. It's just the fact that they did not anticipate that the one loss would be to Vanderbilt, and you almost lost at home to South Carolina. So it's interesting how you got to that number, but you just don't feel as confident moving forward like you would if that only loss would have been to Georgia.
Yep. 205-834-9450. It's Reaction Monday. Your chance to interact with us there on the Jocks text line. This one rolls in. I watch the other highly ranked teams. Those teams get scored on in bunches. I'm thinking we may have to get used to a lack of defense. DeBoer's an offensive coach, and Washington won the majority of their games by 1 score last year.
Also want to point out, do you know where the University of Washington's defense ranked last year?
Oh, I know
Just
their
curious
pass
if
defense
you remember.
in particular
I thought it was in the 90s.
Really bad, yeah.
Or maybe low 100s.
I think their pass defense was in the hundreds.
Yeah.
Their total defense, they were 99th
Yeah.
in America in total defense. Just FYI.
Not good.
Here's an opinion. Milroe playing to not get hurt now. Interesting take.
Well, he did get beat up on Saturday.
Jake from Thorsby. Players from yesterday or yesteryear definitely didn't have the talent the kids today possess, but I feel like players now are not nearly the students of the game as the old players were. That's why situational awareness simply does not exist, in my opinion. Thank you, Jake from Thorsby.
Some of it is kind of concerning, though, where, you look at the Jeremy Bernard play in particular, where if he had gone down in bounds, they could have ran out the clock. He said after the game that was never even a discussion with the coaching staff. They didn't even talk to him about, hey, well, if you have an opportunity, maybe go down here and we can milk the clock. Like, that wasn't even how's that not even a conversation you have?
Mac in Moundville. DeBoer is not, in all caps, the answer. Okay. Tyler, your opinion. We appreciate you sharing.
And I just go to this. If DeBoer is not the answer, then who is?
Sark.
He's not going anywhere.
It's got to be Sark.
Sorry.
It's got to be Sark.
I mean, you might can get Lane Kiffin at a discounted rate.
Yeah. Pass on that one.
About this South Carolina game, the Alabama fans need to remember that in the last 2 years under Saban, Alabama had some games like this. Games that should have been blowouts were almost losses. Remember those, Conrad?
Yep, very well.
Should have lost to Florida down in the swamp a couple years ago.
Yep, you brought up Arkansas last year. Should have lost that one.
Texas A&M.
Texas A&M. South Florida last 2 years.
Isaac in Birmingham. Why does it seem like Bama players want to get in the opposition's face more this year? They look undisciplined and cocky.
I didn't see it as much. I didn't see it as much against South Carolina. I mean, I saw South Carolina try to go Malachi Moore a couple of times into doing stuff, but I did not jump out at me as much as it did in the Vanderbilt game.
No, and I mean in the Vanderbilt game, you heard like during the coin toss. I mean they're dogging the other team. It's like I don't agree with that.
Drake, a big Florida fan, going back to Florida and Tennessee, said it was not the Gator players that lost that game. That was the coaching staff. This one rolls in. I'm 60 years old and came out of the womb yelling Roll Tide. But the last two games were embarrassing. That's way too much talent for this team to be playing like this. Womack is in over his head, and Coach DeBoer needs to have a fire lit under his behind so that he lights a fire under the team. This is the SEC, and fans expect Bama to play like it. I love a strong defensive game, but I'm concerned that our team doesn't have the ability to play it. Roll Tide, roll forever. Another one coming in. Billy Napier should have been fired at the half. I will always support Jalen and the Tide, but I feel like we are better when he doesn't try and be the man.
I will agree with that. Definitely felt like he was pressing at times on Saturday.
Tyler from T-Town. Seems as though our offense reverted back to not helping Milroe on the intentional grounding, when it came off a penalty that backed us up to the 10. Why on 1st and 10 do we run 4 verts or vertical routes and force Milroe, who we know is not a pocket passer, to take a 5-step drop instead of utilizing Jam Miller or Justice Haynes? It's a fair question.
It's a fair question. Got to run the football more.
Can you blame Womack for missed tackles? Not today. These guys are paid employees. Effort missing with increased fundage. American flag emoji.
I do think you can criticize the coaching staff for guys not, maybe the intensity not being where it should be. I think that falls on the coaching staff.
Y'all don't like to read my text, but Alabama ain't cutting it this year. They'll lose to Tennessee, LSU, and either Oklahoma or Auburn. Add those 3 to the loss to Vandy, and you get 8-4. No more comfortable wins. We're in a new era. Give DeBoer time, and I think he'll be a great coach, but it ain't happening this year and probably won't next year. Jimmy, just read your text. Keep texting, please.
You want to go back to the whole situation with Milroe taking that safety. And the reason why he was put in that situation is because you had a stupid penalty on the kickoff that was half the distance to the goal. So I think we also, if we're going to start, throwing knives at all these assistant coaches, I think you need to bring up the fact that Alabama's special teams coordinator, Jay Nunez, let's go back to what happened at Vanderbilt. Look at all the things that happened in that ball game. Not to mention the fact that you had a situation against South Carolina where you had that penalty. Now, again, at Vanderbilt, you had 2 number 2s on the field at the same time. That hurt.
Kept a drive alive.
Sure did. Alabama could have gotten off the field. And then you had South Carolina. You had the penalty, stupid penalty, half the distance of the goal that put Milroe in a situation to get safety. And then how your special teams was not prepared with the so-called, using air quotes here for those watching on YouTube, the good hands team that had 2 opportunities on the squirrely onside kick. So what's he doing? I mean, special teams the last couple of weeks has been.
It's been problematic.
Yeah, it's been a bit. I mean, Burnup has been gold. Now, they haven't had an opportunity to kick a lot of field goals, but I don't like what I'm seeing from a special teams aspect.
No.
From this team. So there's a lot of things just not working and happening. And I don't know if the staff is overwhelmed because now you're in the big boy league and you're not in the Pac-12 and you're not playing Oregon State every week. I mean, this is big time stuff here.
I do get the sense that maybe after the Vanderbilt loss, you realize how hard the fan base takes loss. Okay, I understand. You lose at Fresno State, you lose at Washington. It's not good. People are upset. But it's different here, right? You lose one game and people think the sky is falling. And, a coach that is very even-keeled, as we've heard, and seems to just, he is the same regardless of if you're winning, losing, whatever. Personally, to me, it felt like he was uncomfortable at times on Saturday. He was pressing, and he felt like situations at the end of the first half where you've had 2 disastrous plays back-to-back, and instead of going into halftime, you're trying to score more points because you feel this pressure of, the fan base is going to be mad. We're only at 14-9, and you end up making stupid decisions. And I feel like part of that is he feels the pressure to perform, and things aren't going very well, and you had some boneheaded coaching decisions on Saturday.
I feel like you were trying to say something without saying it when you said uncomfortable, and I think that you were referencing the black hoodie.
You think it was a little hot?
I thought that was the road that you were taking there.
Well, if we're keeping score,
undefeated nobody has said anything about apparel so far on the text. So, fingers crossed.
Well, now they will.
Well, now they're mad because he was smiling after a win, because he's walking off the field and he's grinning from ear to ear, and people are upset about that because the coach. I guess he should be pissed off because you just beat South Carolina by 2 points. So. It's always something.
A win is a win.
No more ice cream, no more music, no more smiling. What are we turning into?
No more
North
TikTok.
Korea.
No more TikTok videos during practice.
This is North Korea. This is how it all starts.
Your calls, your text are next. At the top of the hour, we will hear from Hugh Freeze. It's been kind of a quiet week, an off week for the Auburn Tigers. They are about a touchdown underdog as they head to Columbia, Missouri to take on the Missouri Tigers, who played the high school team out of Amherst, Massachusetts over the weekend. Took care of business, as they should have.
UMass not ranked as one of, or the worst in college football this week.
No, UAB is this week. So 134 schools, and I think the Athletic now has UAB ranked
129.
129?
Or, excuse me, 128.
128.
But there's UMass. There's somewhere after that. I think Kent State is ranked as 134.
Is the worst?
Mm-hmm. Yep. Kennesaw State, Kent State, UTEP, your team that you love to fade, UMass, and I'm trying to remember who the other school was. But yeah, they're in there. Not good.
No. That's not good when you're in the same conversation as Kent State.
No.
How was your trip? I feel what I feel like, Conrad? I feel like I'm asking Mary Todd Lincoln, despite the night, how was the play?
Yeah.
That's kind of how I'm like about to ask Landrum, how was your trip to West Point?
Oh, okay. Dinner was fabulous with the family night before. There at Tavern on the Green. Then we did a little sightseeing in the middle of the night, which...
This actually sounds a lot like what that story was.
Drove by the Dakota where John Lennon was shot.
It's just the parallels are just scary.
Wow.
Went to West Village, just on the other side of Greenwich Village, where Philip Seymour Hoffman had a place, and then apparently that's where his went down.
Yep.
I don't know. That was just kind of the... But then drove by some other really cool things. We've been to the city before, but saw some other sites, and it was fun. West Point was beautiful. The Hudson Valley was absolutely marvelous. The people there were very hospitable. Not a big fan of the cannon that I heard shot 150 times.
Well, it happens when
they scored.
Give up a 500.
Yeah. But other than that, it was, and the barbecue after the game. I told Cole, great job, Cole Peterson, with catering in the barbecue. That actually, yeah, you would not expect it.
So people in New York do barbecue.
Well, this place, apparently they catered to Ohio State too. So I think it's maybe a chain, but this particular one came from Connecticut, and they had like a smoked jalapeno cheese cheddar sausage.
Whew.
That they had sliced up. They had some great brisket, some smoked chicken, mac and cheese, green beans. It was
pretty good.
It was on point. I was very impressed. Had to have been a Southerner that went up there, maybe married a Yankee and started those franchises, but it was really good.
So you were just talking about the rankings. At UAB is 128, Southern Miss, then UMass is 130, Akron, UTEP, Kennesaw State, and Kent State. That's according to the Athletic.
How can I forget Akron?
As the worst teams in college football this year. Alabama, meanwhile, they're number 7 in both the AP and the coaches poll. And according to the Athletic, they are the 7th best team in college football. So take all that for what it's worth.
Generous.
Well, how about our friends at Mystic Beverage, mysticbeverage.com, made in Blount County, Alabama. I tell you about the Lift Blend all the time. It's got the CBD, the CBG, the Delta 9, but the green coffee bean extract that boosts both body and mind. It's great for focus or just when you need to concentrate and you need to pick me up. Maybe towards the end of the day. The Broadway is a broad spectrum CBD with Delta 9 for comprehensive wellness boost. And the Nirvanic, a smooth, calming experience perfect for unwinding. So whether it's the Lift, the High Hills Delta 9, the Nirvanic, or the Broadway, they got different options for you at your local Piggly Wiggly. It's Mystic Beverage, mysticbeverage.com, whatever kind of mood that you're looking to feel. mysticbeverage.com. We always appreciate your support. Find it once again at your local Pig.
All right, we got Hugh Freeze coming up at the top of the hour. Kalen DeBoer at noon. Let's go to the calls at 1-800-239-WJOX.
Let's go to Tom. He's in Pell City. Tom, welcome in.
What's going on, fellas? A little positive note here for y'all. Alabama's always lost one game, correct?
Under Nick Saban, correct. There was only a couple times that he was able to run the table.
Did the sun come up the next morning? It did. Did Alabama run the gauntlet? They sure did. So what's going to happen this time? So what? Who cares if the coach wears a T-shirt? Who gives a rip? They're going to win. And then if we lose to Tennessee, training wheels will be coming off. But if we win in Tennessee, training wheels will definitely be coming off. and it's going to be open season, and the gloves are going to be coming off as well. Get ready, boys. It's only going to get better after Tennessee. That's all I got to say, brother. Roll Tide!
Woo! All right. Right back at you. It's got the optimism you need, right? Big week. Let's go to a guy who's always optimistic. Hey, Don, what's up?
Hey, guys. Happy Monday to you guys.
You as well.
Hey, before we talk a little football, I got a special happy anniversary announcement I need to make right now to my buddy PG and his beautiful wife, Elena. They are celebrating 48 years of marriage
That
today.
is outstanding. Happy anniversary. What'd you think about this weekend?
But I tell you, I told Conrad and Damian this morning, Landrum, with Auburn not playing, that's the first time in a long time I can just sit back and watch great football. And that's got to be one of the better Saturdays that I've watched in years. I mean, every game except for the Texas-Oklahoma game went right down the wire. And I was talking to PG about it all day yesterday. They are so ready to get rid of Billy Napier down there. My goodness gracious. And, Pat, you were right. I mean, they had in the second quarter, I mean, I don't know what they were doing.
It was a mess. Complete mess.
And I mean, you know, the play that ended the half, that's inexcusable having 12 men on the field. You don't have a timeout, and you can't even kick a field goal.
Well, unless you're Dan Lanning and you know the rule book, in which he manipulated that very nicely against Ohio State the other night and got him a win. But I definitely don't think Billy Napier was doing that at the end of the first half against Tennessee.
I mean, yes, but speaking of Dan Lanning, that was my favorite game of the day. I don't know if y'all remember or not, but I picked that one last week.
Good for you.
Yeah, that was actually on our poll. That was the best week I've had yet. I'm still way down the standings, and Landon, you're in second place, aren't you?
Second or first, I can't remember.
Yeah, so good job. And
still got one game left this week.
I'm even behind Conrad and Dedgum Damien on this, so I'm not happy. So I'm gonna make a comeback though, and everything. But Landon, I'm glad you enjoyed your trip, and that's just sad about where UAB stands right now. I mean, it really is.
Yeah, it's your alma mater. How do you think about it? What do you feel about that? Huh?
Well, you know what? I mean, we talked about it this week, and I mean, I hate to say it and everything, and UAB just don't have the money to buy out his contract. I don't see a way they're going to get rid of him. I've talked to several of my UAB friends. They just don't have the money to do it.
He gets paid $1.3 million. He is 3-13 against FBS opponents.
So now, how much did you say? How much would the buyout be?
Oh, he makes $1.3 million a year.
Okay. So how many more years has he got left on his contract?
At least 3, I believe.
Okay. Well, if they can't come up with $4 million, then I'm dead wrong about that, man.
Well, you know, if you do pay him out, then you still have to go find another coach and another coaching staff. So, I mean, it's not just getting rid of the head coach. Then you got to worry about who you're going to go hire and potentially buy out their contracts and then give them a new deal. So there's a lot of money involved, even at a school like UAB.
Well, that's okay, Pat. We always got our basketball coming up soon. And
that's right, because the basketball team is ranked preseason number 1 in the American Athletic Conference. So, and they've got the preseason player of the year. So good times are coming.
I talked to a booster at halftime up in New York, and they were super excited about basketball.
They should be.
Oh,
it's outstanding.
Okay. Opening game, November the 4th against Vermont. I'll be there. Hey, Landrum, are you going to call some of those games? But with football still going on?
Football's still going on. I would guess yes, I will.
Well, good. By the way, you and Pat, y'all both when I listen to y'all do your calls and everything, amazing job, fellas. Absolutely great. And I got me a big high school game to go to this week, Pat. My Homewood Patriots are playing Parker at Homewood, and me and Gary's class are all going together. And I'm still holding out hope that Auburn can get name offered. I'm still holding out hope and everything. Speaking of Auburn, I'm going to go.
Are they still playing football?
I'm getting ready to shock you. I'm calling it right now, Conrad. We are going to upset Missouri Saturday.
Okay.
Everything. But anyway, I want to know what y'all are thinking about with two coaches, I think, that are very disappointing. What are y'all's feelings today about Ryan Day and Lane Kiffin?
Well, it goes without saying that Lane Kiffin has yet to win a big game. anywhere. So, and if he wants to go to Florida, I think there will be plenty of people that will fill up his tank of gas and start his car for him in Oxford.
My opinion of both didn't change after Saturday. I think we've maybe seen enough from Ryan Day, and we've seen enough from Lane Kiffin, kind of know what you're going to get. That's unfortunate for Ole Miss fans, but it's what it is. Now, I mean, the question with that game, and I know we'll have plenty of time to talk about it, but is Ole Miss, have they pretty much sealed their fate as far as the college football playoff?
I would think so. I don't see, even if you beat Georgia, I don't see enough. I put it this way to somebody yesterday. Ole Miss is running the runway is getting pretty tight at the end, and there's just not enough for them, in my opinion, to get into the conversation unless just complete chaos happens in the SEC. Because you beat Georgia, I mean, is that going to be enough to? Well, let's face it. If Georgia loses this weekend and they're an underdog at Texas, and based on the way Georgia played against Mississippi State over the weekend, they still got massive problems in the secondary. You lose in Austin, then you go to Oxford, and let's say Ole Miss beats them. How much cachet is Georgia going to have to the committee? The only good news is they beat Clemson, and Clemson is apparently now a top 10 team by running the table in a very bad ACC. So I just don't see a way that Ole Miss can get back into the conversation.
No, that's kind of where I am right now. And I don't think that Ole Miss football team, I don't care where the game's being played, they're not beating Georgia. I don't know. Maybe they are. They've got their own things to worry about there in Athens, apparently. Now, we'll continue with your text, your phone calls. All of you waiting on hold, we will get to your reactions here on this Reaction Monday. 3-Man Front and Jocks, 94.5.
Hugh Freeze coming up at the top of the hour. Kalen DeBoer at 12 noon. We'll also monitor the coordinators for the University of Alabama. They usually get to the podium around 11:30. We'll see if Kane Womack, what he has to say. Nick Sheridan, the offensive coordinator for Alabama. Right now, you need to do something about that tree before it falls on your house. Call Golsta Tree Service at 205-337-4018. Operated by a certified arborist, Golsta Tree Service handles little jobs like trimming hedges, shaping trees, to hazardous jobs like line clearance, and big jobs like complete tree removals with cranes, grinding the stump and roots out and hauling off to the last twig. Complete removal. Bucket trucks make it easy for them. They also offer spikeless climbing, makes it easy on your trees like you. They care about what your tree looks like when they're done. Call Golsta Tree Service today, 205-337-4018.
A lot of you waiting to weigh in on the phone lines. First, let's go to Alan. He's been waiting patiently, wants to talk Alabama. Alan, welcome into Three Man Front.
Hey, can you hear me all right?
Yes, sir. We got you.
All righty. Y'all talked about the betting. I had an excuse me. But I have any week.
I lied. We do not have you. Alan, hang on. Conrad will check with you. We'll try to get better reception there on your cell phone. Let's go to Doug. He's in Mountainville. Doug, welcome in.
Hey, guys. 2 questions for you. But the first one, is South Carolina a bowl team? They have 3 wins. Do you think they will be a bowl team?
Looking at the rest of their schedule, if they are, I would say 6-6. Maybe. Close. Fringe bowl?
Yeah, because what'd you say?
I said maybe a fringe bowl team.
Yeah, I was debating with my friends, and they think South Carolina's a good team. They think they're a bowl team, and I just don't see it. They got a good defensive line, but I just don't think this team is good. And with Alabama losing to Vanderbilt and escaping South Carolina, I just don't know if this is a concerning thing for Alabama or not. So I want to get you guys to weigh in on that. Also, is the Boise State running back, do you think he will win the Heisman, or do you think his strength of schedule will come back to bite him in the end?
That's a great question. I personally believe he will be in New York. I think it's going to be a very close vote when it's all said and done. You also got to keep in mind that I think Dylan Gabriel and Genty will both kind of take away from each other, out west especially. Obviously, Dylan Gabriel's going to play a tougher schedule, but Boise did play Oregon, and daggum.
And Boise almost beat them.
Yeah, it took them pretty late in that ball game. But
if he continues on the pace he's on right now, he should absolutely win the Heisman.
Yeah,
no doubt in my mind.
And going back to what he said about South Carolina, I agree. I don't think that this is a terrible South Carolina team. Their schedule is absolutely just brutal. You win your first game versus Old Dominion. You go on the road to Kentucky. What an impressive win that was, right? We all agreed 31-6. You lose at home to LSU by a field goal. You beat an Akron team that is just awful. But then you have to take on an Ole Miss team that was trying to get some things righted, and they did. And then you got to go to Bryant-Denny and take on Alabama. Now you got to go to Norman, Oklahoma. You get Texas A&M at home. You're at Vanderbilt. You get Missouri at home. Wofford will give you that one, and you're at Clemson, who's a top 10 team. Their schedule just does not get any easier.
No, I mean, South Carolina's what, 3, maybe 4 play. And I know you could say this about a lot of teams, but they're what, 3 or 4 plays away from being 5-1 with a blowout loss to Ole Miss. Like, that's a top 25 team right there.
Yeah, just given, and not bailing anybody out, but given the first part of their schedule, I think that for where they are right now versus some of these other teams that on paper and by record, I think they're better than some of those other teams that people would perceive as maybe being better than South Carolina. We'll get back to your phone calls. Let's try Alan again. Alan, we got you. What's up?
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes, sir. We got you.
All righty. I hadn't heard anybody talk about this all weekend, but whenever we threw the touchdown pass at the end of the game to Bernard, if he had just fallen down, taken a knee instead of crossing into the goal line, or even if he ran out of bounds, we could have run the clock out by taking knees. And I just haven't heard a soul mention that, and I can't believe the coaching staff wasn't aware of that, because at the time all we needed was a first down, period, and we would have run the clock out. So I'm like, why did the coaches not tell him this, and why am I the only one noticing it?
Thank you for the call.
Thanks, Alan.
We actually did speak of that briefly. You might have tuned in a little bit later than that, but Conrad brought it up earlier in the show because, Bernard after the game even mentioned that was not even a conversation. It was like, I catch the ball, I run the ball, I try to score.
Well, and even DeBoer after the game, he essentially, he's head coach, he has the right to do whatever he wants, but somebody asked him about that in particular, and he just goes, well, we considered there were some safe options there for that play, but essentially he just said, nah, we didn't want to do that. We wanted to score points, and that's, his prerogative, but.
Well, at least the hands team was out there. I don't know if you.
Well, at least they were out there.
If you blame the coaching staff for that, that was just a poorly executed.
Heck of a kick.
That was
it was a heck of a kick.
It was
tremendous.
Kick.
But secure the football. That's your job, right there. You got to know the situation. That ball's coming to you. It didn't look like it had crazy spin on it.
No, it just bounces off a dude's chest, and then another, you're in panic mode trying to pick it up, and you just let it get away.
Let's go to Chris. Chris, welcome in a 3-man front.
Gentlemen and Molly, roll tide, baby. Another weekend, another win. Good for that. I see Conrad didn't do his homework like I told him to, because he still has the mindset that last year's team should reflect towards this year's team. But yeah, and nobody still has an answer to my question. Well, the right answer, that is, what is that standard? Because if the standard was the standard, we'd have Nick Saban at the head coach. Coaching turnover would be okay, but we have Kevin DeBoer now. In order to get a standard, you have to establish what do you want your standard to be. And if we keep saying the standard is the standard, when we have no baseline for this team, what the standard is.
Standard is winning games. It's winning games.
That's every team's standard.
Okay.
That's the case.
Well, let's just make it simple. It's winning games.
The standard is we have to figure out what we find as a baseline for a standard. By that I mean, Landrum, is this: do we have jaw jacking back and forth with other team when we should haven't won a game, or if it's close? Do we have you playing in the band? Giving up fourth downs and third downs? Do we hell, compared to back to last year's standard and this year's standard, Willie Miller is prime proof.
Chris, thank you for the phone call.
I think the standard's the same. They're just not living up to it. Personally.
Hugh Freeze, his press conference live from the plains of Auburn. It comes your way next as the Tigers back in action this week, traveling to Como to take on Mizzou. 3-man front, Reaction Monday, Jox 94.5, JoxFM.com.
Welcome back in. It's hour number 2 of Three Man Front. This is Reaction Monday. We got so many texts to get to. Calls as well, 1-800-239-WJOX. Your comments about Alabama's narrow victory against South Carolina. Auburn back on the playing field coming up this Saturday in Como, taking on the Missouri Tigers. UAB, another disappointing loss, this time to Army. Army now a top 25 team as they cracked top 25 in yesterday's poll. So we're waiting Hugh Freeze momentarily down at Auburn as he will speak to the media as his team gets ready to go on the road in the SEC.
I've seen Navy up close, and now I've seen Army up close, and they do it in different ways. The Army quarterback is just one solid muscle, and the guy is just seeking to destroy people, which is amazing. But that is going to be one heck of a game between those two teams. I firmly believe that Army and Navy are the two best teams in the American Athletic Conference. So how would that be for what? This would be Army's first year, right, in the American? That's correct, right?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
So you are probably going to see, barring just those teams overlooking an opponent, which I find it hard that either one of those teams, just based on their makeup and their regiment, how they do that. But you could get them in the American Athletic Conference championship game, and then you will get the traditional Army-Navy game right after that. And I would not want to miss either one of those matchups because I think those are going to be outstanding football games.
Should be very good. Both very good football teams.
Yep. Our friends at Evolve IT, they bring you the Hugh Freeze press conference as well as Kalen DeBoer's every single Monday. Evolve IT, they're ready to take your tech game to the next level. They're local, and that is huge, and that's the big difference between a lot of IT providers out there. It's someone who serves on a national level. Well, this is an Alabama-based company. Not only are they going to answer the phone when your IT goes down, and it could very well happen. It happens to a lot of different companies, but they're going to be able to respond immediately. It's Evolve IT. Check them out, evolvebhm.com, or you can call 205-749-8970.
So we're waiting Hugh Freeze to step behind the microphone, and we will be carrying that live right here on Jocks 94.5. I saw just a couple of minutes ago that the first Ken Palm rating came out for basketball, and we'll talk about that a little bit later as we have Hugh Freeze now behind the lectern.
He's getting
Hey, good morning to you. It's excited to get back into a game week. We had a much-needed off week last week, which was good for our physical bodies and our mental side. Obviously, disappointing to be sitting where we are record-wise, and determined that we must play more consistent football in all three phases, and that we've got to coach that better. And we spent a lot of time last week looking at what we think needs to be done in order for us to do that, because we've got obviously a very difficult schedule ahead. 2 games on the road at 2 really teams that are playing really, really good football, and it starts at Missouri this week, and they've won 7 straight home games, and I think Eli does. I know everybody has their rankings of coaches, and it's based on. And to me, the better talent you have, the better coach you are for sure. And to me, some of the better coaching jobs are done with those lesser rosters in recruiting. And I think you look at people like Eli and Stoops and Head Clark Lee now too, that I think are doing incredible jobs at their respective programs. With the kids that they've had, and they've had some time to develop their culture and get their players in. But Eli's, I think he does one of the better jobs in the country in all aspects in managing the new world that we're facing. And he's obviously one of my closest friends in the business. And it used to be Gus when he was in the conference, and now it's kind of Eli and Kirby are who I probably talk to the most. Eli for sure. I have great respect for him and who he is and how he does things, and it's going to be a tall task for us there to go and compete with a really, really good Missouri team. They're the best they're the best skill players we've faced yet, and their quarterback's playing at a really high level also.
Hey, Hugh, as far as the players go, what was your area of emphasis during the off week? What did you kind of push in practice?
We had 2 practices. Obviously, we were on fall break, and we lifted and conditioned on Monday, and then had a Tuesday and Wednesday practice. I thought the Tuesday one they attacked extremely well, and Wednesday was energetic, as you can imagine, with them knowing they had fall break on Thursday and Friday. So it really fell at a good time for us. I thought their energy was great. The emphasis was on us. Here are the things we've got to get better on these short distances and critical downs on both sides, and red zone, and really what is our bread and butter, and let's try to make it look maybe different ways, but we probably don't need more. Let's do less and keep doing it better. So had 2 really good days, truthfully, for an open week. I think having fall break really helped it, because I think everybody needed a little break, coaches, players, and obviously we did some recruiting also. But it was a good open week.
You mentioned after the game that you wanted to have a physical off week, and you wanted to find out what players were willing to give 60 minutes in a game. Do you feel like you accomplished that?
Yeah, we were really physical on Wednesday. Tuesday, not so much. I backed off that a little bit. Wednesday, we were really physical, but knew we could be with the 2 days off of school. I'm really pleased with most of the team and their response to the disappointment. And of course, we work hard at teaching, the qualities that we think this sport can develop in life. And I worked hard on that. And last week and this week, yesterday, we changed it up a little bit. We came in yesterday, so they're off today as far as practice. But, man, what will you be known for, and how you finish anything, I think, is of great value in life, and will set them up to have success long after they get through playing here if handled properly. And I'm pleased with the response at this point.
Hugh, how valuable was the off week in terms of self-scout, going back to look at everything? And then I guess what did that show you of the offense, and then I guess quarterback execution with Peyton and those guys?
Self-scout, honestly, is about as good as it's ever been on the balance, on the unpredictability of formations, and it's pretty good. Obviously, our quarterbacks have. I think Peyton's played well at times, and we've struggled at times. So it's there for everybody to see. But I think as of late, he's played really consistent, and we're going to need that the next few weeks for sure to be able to compete with these teams we're going into play.
Coach, can you characterize your conversations with Peyton Thorne after some of maybe the confusion in the media about the statements after the game on that 4th and 1?
Yeah, I don't read the media, don't listen, don't have social media anymore. I'm very transparent and tell you exactly the truth of what happened. And Peyton thought he needed to change the alignment of the back to handle an edge guy, and I think some of that may have been based on him asking an offensive lineman. And again, we've got to do a better job coaching. That shouldn't have happened. That wasn't part of the process. And if you go watch the film, if we leave our alignment like it's supposed to be and hand the ball off, Jarquez is running on a DB for an easy first down. So I understand his thinking there. They just unfolded a linebacker and on the backside, and so obviously we didn't coach it well enough for him to know he didn't have to do that.
You said you're pleased with the balance. Yeah, y'all have, I think I saw in the stats, had the fewest running plays in the conference. Is that a concern that you're not getting the ball enough to one of the best backs in the conference?
Yeah, I think we need to get it to him more. I don't know what is the average per rush. So I think we've got to, that's the one that I care about. And, but there's no question 27 needs to touch it more. That's the frustrating thing of some of our short yardage deals that have been called and not executed at a high enough level where he actually touches it. And that's we've got to get that corrected.
Hugh, you guys have played a lot of young guys, a lot of freshmen this season. How much does an off week, you think, really help those guys kind of reset or, kind of look ahead, considering they've never been through this before?
Yeah, I think, heck, we've been going since, approximately 1st of August. And so that's a long time on everybody, even guys that have been doing it a while, in particular, freshmen that are brand new and they're having to, go through the grind of school and ball and everything that comes with that. So I think it's, coming after 6 games, that's about as good as you would want it to be. And now, y'all correct me if I'm wrong, I believe it's 3 games now and then another one and then the final 3. So I don't know that we could draw up, for a year that you have 2 open weeks, truthfully them falling at better times. It split the season pretty good for us, it looks like. And I think the freshmen certainly, benefited. Everybody was a little sore and beat up. We've had some physical games. And then the mental side of handling not being exactly where you had hoped to be, I think was good timing for that also.
The offensive line, too tall's been banged up some. Did this week give you a chance to maybe look at that group again, maybe just to see if you got the right moves? And what have you thought about their play through 6 games?
We're running the ball effectively, so we're doing some good things there. Pass pro's been dicey, not at every position, but it doesn't matter. We're a team, and so we've got to continue to improve that. We're looking at, D-Wade's playing some of both tackles when Too Tall gets hurt, and that has to shuffle us around, and Joyner's jumping in at guard along with Tate some, and the game moved a little bit fast for a couple guys at Georgia with all their shifting and stuff, and it showed. And so we're looking at, because you can expect once people put on tape that something worked, because Georgia did a good job of studying our Oklahoma game, which I thought we did really good stuff in that game, and they were shifting right before the snap, and it gave us some problems with just our mental execution of what I should do on this pass pro or what I should do on this run play for a couple guys. And we practiced that, but it didn't show very well on film. And we've got to get that corrected for sure, because and then another, no one's asked me, but Corey Batoon's the defensive coordinator at Missouri, and he, he's one of my guys and was with me, how many years? 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So, he's been with me 8 to 9 years on my staff, and we've talked a lot of ball. And so he's a heck of a guy and heck of a defensive coordinator and doing a great job there for Eli. And so that presents its own challenges.
Coach, I just to go off of that, with Eli and then with Boone there, you just talked a lot of ball with both of those guys. When you look at this Missouri team, a lot of people look at that Texas A&M game and have some statements about this group. But what are you looking at about this team, and what stands out to you about this Missouri team?
Yeah, I look at the consistency over, last year and most of this year. Obviously, things can happen when you go on the road in this conference, and a team gets the momentum and has the right game plan and the right call, and you get really Missouri had a chance to really stay in that game early and had like 3 penalties and calls that went horribly against them, and it kind of just snowballed, which, you see that happen from time to time, but I don't make too much of that. I know what I see on film, and I know the consistency that they've been about almost every single game for the last 15 or so. They beat Ohio State in a bowl game and have many of those same kids back. And I mean, this is a top 20 team for sure, if not higher, and hadn't lost at home in a long time. They're a really quality football team.
You mentioned, you talked a lot last week about improving the execution being one of your focuses. How do you as a coaching staff, what are sort of the steps you can do during the bye week, I guess, sort of tangibly to work on that?
Well, the thing that's been good is having time. Like today, I mean, we have most of the game plan in because we obviously started last week. And so now are we really, really sure from everybody in this room that you feel really, really good about your kids executing this against all these different looks that we may or may not see on this given play, particularly on these critical down calls. And so just having the time to really, all right, let's go back and watch it again. Let's go back and watch it again for the third time this morning on 3 different deals that and so it will be really, and I don't know, again, you got to block and tackle, and you got to catch the football, and you got to make the right read at quarterback. But if we have a critical down, it will be very, 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 very disheartening and infuriating if another situation happens on a 4th and 1 or a 3rd and 1 where our kids don't have a clear understanding of what should happen. That would be quite infuriating.
Every coach everywhere talks about consistency, which in college football, where you got young guys and older guys and guys with so many things going on around them, how do you, as a program, more than this week, but as a program, how do you establish that kind of consistency that you need to be successful?
Well, it starts with us demanding it in practice, and that's become harder and harder to do in ways that we used to do. But I don't think you can get it unless you demand it consistently in practice. And then the second phase to that would be that your team demands it. So, one of the best teams are when you can take freshmen and say, hey, let's use DeMarcus Riddick or Jalen Crawford or Cam Coleman or Perry Thompson or Malcolm Simmons, any of them, and say, hey, guys, let me show you what this really is supposed to look like. Go watch these 5 guys. And that's when you get on to some consistency. All right, well, who are those 5 guys right now for them? And I think that's one of the things we're struggling with a little bit, is some of our best guys are younger guys that are trying to do it the right way. But you really, when you start having a team where you have those older guys where you say, go watch him and everything he does. And that's what consistency looks like. And that's where we're trying to get as a program. And that's where some like Missouri, I think they have those guys in the building right now, but they've had time. And we're going to have them too. And we've gotten better at that, but we still don't have enough that you say that's exactly what it's supposed to look like.
You mentioned Missouri's skill talent. They've got 2 receivers this year, Burden and Weiss, that are towards the top of the SEC. You guys play a ton of young guys, especially a corner. Just talk a little bit about that matchup and getting those guys prepared for what you said would be one of the toughest matchups they're going to have all year.
Yeah, it's not one that you just get overjoyed about. I mean, truthfully, it's they've got veteran guys that have proven to be some of the best in this league, whether they're going against the top tier corners and safeties or not. And we're due to some injuries and then just to our youth, obviously it's going to be a great test for us. And we got to find a way to get them some help and eliminate the explosive plays, which is very difficult to do against them. But again, it's part of the growing process of where we are currently, and I'm sure our kids will be excited for the challenge.
That is Hugh Freeze meeting with the media as his team gets ready to come off that bye week against the Missouri Tigers. We will hear from Kalen DeBoer at the top of the hour. But when it comes to plumbing, always have a pro on standby. That's Iron Mountain Drains and Plumbing, rated A+ by the Better Business Bureau. They're family owned and operated. They handle everything from faucet repairs, water heater maintenance, commercial plumbing, sewer line repairs, and so much more. One call does it all by dialing this number, 205-516-4927. Iron Mountain Drains and Plumbing. Go to ironmountainworld.com for a free quote. Big or small, Iron Mountain Drains and Plumbing does it all. 205-516-4927. More of your text and calls on this Reaction Monday, Jocks 94.5. It is 11:25, Jocks 94.5. This is Reaction Monday. The phone lines are open at 1-800-239-WJOX. The courtesy GMC text line 205-834-9450. Just a couple of the highlights of what you just heard Hugh Freeze talk about. He says, we got most of our game plan in already for Mizzou because of the bye week. Now the focus will be on the execution of that game plan. He calls Missouri's Eli Drinkwitz one of the better coaches in the country in all aspects, says Drinkwitz is one of his closest friends in the coaching world, which makes sense because Hugh Freeze and Gus Malzahn and Eli Drinkwitz are all three good friends. Hugh Freeze was asked about his message to the 2025 recruits, touches on Auburn's recent history of playing for national titles, quoting, "We've proven we can. We've got the resources. Now let's get the roster," end of quote.
Okay. Win football games. Right now, Missouri a 5.5-point favorite as they will host Auburn. Early morning kick there in Como. From daily exercisers and youth athletes to elite professionals, UAB Sports and Exercise Medicine, they treat everyone with the same level of exceptional care with board-certified professionals, state-of-the-art imaging and injury prevention programs. Their comprehensive team is here to keep you in the game. Visit uabmedicine.org/sports, or you can call 205-930-8339 to make an appointment. UAB Sports and Exercise Medicine, knowledge moving medicine forward.
So we told you earlier in the program that Graham Mertz has been lost for the season for the Florida Gators. He is done with a knee injury. News coming out of Rocky Top. Josh Heupel has just confirmed that starting linebacker Keenan Pili has torn his ACL, and he is out for the remainder of the season.
Ooh. Not good.
Not good at all if you're a Tennessee Vol fan. Lose your starting linebacker to a torn ACL. So we've seen those issues for both Alabama and Auburn when they've been dinged up. When you talk about basically it's the quarterback of the defense.
Yeah.
I mean, they're the ones getting the calls from the sideline. They're the ones that's trying to execute the game plan from the defensive coordinator. So that is a big loss for the Tennessee Vols as he has torn his ACL and is out for the remainder of the season.
Alabama -2.5. Very interesting, the line there.
What's the total?
The total is 56.5. That will we see as much fluctuation on Friday as we saw for Alabama and Georgia?
I don't know.
Potentially?
I just don't think that anybody has got, I don't know, both fan bases. Do you have any confidence to put any money on either one of them unless you're going to just do it because your heart tells you to do it?
No, not really.
I mean, seriously.
I would have had more confidence in Tennessee heading into this game had I not seen what they looked like against Florida.
Could you have imagined, and I'll have to go back and dust off my history books. Could you imagine if Tennessee would have lost to Florida and Bama would have lost to South Carolina? I can't even tell you the last time that those two teams would have gone into the third Saturday in October with back-to-back losses on a losing streak.
Yep.
Oh my good, that would have been.
I mean, I don't know for Tennessee, but I mean, Alabama, I don't think Alabama hasn't lost back-to-back games in 17 years, right? At least in the regular season since Saban's first year. So, yeah, that would have been uncharted territory. That game definitely not as, I mean, it's maybe more interesting now because whoever loses maybe is out of the playoff conversation, but looks a lot different than it did 2-3 weeks ago.
So Heupel was just asked about Nick Saban being gone from this rivalry. And he says, this rivalry was what it was before Nick Saban came around and before I got here. This is one of the biggest rivalries in the game. So from the Tennessee perspective, it's still a very big game, although they've only had one win. And
I'm just glad I don't have to watch Jalen Hyatt play again. That was nightmare fuel.
I'm just glad that your Surströmmen has been shipped. So
any delays in the Baltic Sea? Or
the only thing that it's telling me
waters?
now, it says now instead of arriving October 18th, it says arriving October 18th through November 8th.
Oh my gosh, what is going on? What is happening in the North Atlantic?
I don't know, guys.
Know. You make a couple phone calls in your free time, and it's amazing what can happen sometimes.
But I did buy you the fillets. So, yeah. You're not just getting innards and end pieces. You're getting the fillet of the surströmming.
As long as they have their eyeball still attached, that's really what I'm looking for.
By the way, Pat, we do need to, while we're at Social Taco tomorrow, we need to talk to them about where we're going to do this.
Right.
And make sure that the wind is not blowing that day.
Or it's blowing the other way.
Blowing the other way.
Yeah.
Just build me a little bubble. Just put me inside my own little bubble.
I don't think you want that.
No, I don't. I think I would die. Or at least pass out from the fumes. But
I do not think that. All right, this is Reaction Monday. We are going to monitor off the air what's going on in Tuscaloosa as both coordinators will be meeting with the media. And then we will have Kalen DeBoer coming up at the top of the hour. We will read your text messages, take your phone calls. This is Reaction Monday on Jox 94.5.
$11:34, three-man front, Reaction Monday. We got a slew of texts that we're going to get into. Many of you reacting what you saw with Alabama in South Carolina this past weekend. Alabama getting ready as a 2.5-point favorite to travel north third Saturday in October to take on the Tennessee Vols, who won by the hair of their chinny chin chin, as did Alabama with their matchup with Florida this past Saturday.
Well, it is the lunch hour, and don't overthink it today. Head on over to Big Whiskey's in Stadium Trace Village. They're near the Hoover Met, because they are a great place for food of all varieties during this lunch hour. They have a full menu ranging from appetizers to salads to burgers to steaks and much, much more. They also have a bar featuring their unique cocktails, including 120 whiskeys with whiskeys on tap and plenty of screens to catch all of the action any time of day. They also have different food and drink specials each and every day of the week. So go visit our friends for lunch today at Big Whiskey's, located in Stadium Trace Village off of Highway 150 near the Hoover Met.
Let's get to some of those texts, 205-834-9450. We love your participation in the show, and that's the best way to interact with us. This one comes in, not pertaining to Alabama. The wheels are falling off in Oxford. Lane will be Florida's next head coach. Maybe so.
Are you that upset about it if you're Ole Miss right now?
Well, I'm sure they would like to keep Lane Kiffin, but I'm sure a lot of Ole Miss fans looking at the loss column and what was expected of this team and knowing at least one of the games that you still have left, and there's, I would say, better than 50-50 chance that you were left out of the college football playoff as it stands right now.
I don't want to be a smart ass here, but if you're Florida, why would you want Lane Kiffin?
Can't win the big game.
If I'm Florida, the name that I would pay very close attention to, if you do ultimately get rid of Billy Napier, is Eli Drinkwitz.
Yes. That was the name that I threw out. Nobody was talking about when all of these names came up. That's a guy that's gettable. Won football games, and I think you could make the argument, if he gets the resources that he will get at Florida, think about what that guy could potentially do.
And he wears a visor.
And he wears a visor.
And Hugh Freeze would endorse him based on what we just heard.
Yeah.
Big fan of Drink.
And you know that he would rock the Jays, right?
It would just be funny because the whole Dan Mullen, Darth Vader thing was him and Drink, right? So it'd be just kind of funny that comes full circle sometimes.
For sure.
Don't take pictures when you're deep sea fishing, though.
David from Pinson says half of those missed tackles were from LT Overton. Dude can't seem to keep his balance. He would lead the country in sacks if he would just keep his feet.
He is very good at breaking through the offensive front. He is not very good at securing tackles.
If you missed it earlier, according to Pro Football Focus, Alabama had its worst tackling game of the year. They missed 11 tackles against South Carolina.
Ooh, that can get you beat. This text reads, Bama players look more like celebrities than football players.
Talking about, I guess, all the jewelry and stuff.
Mark with a C in Homewood says DeBoer's post-game answers and body language does not inspire confidence. He seems to shrink a little every Saturday. You agree with that?
I don't know if he... Look, I still have perfectly good faith in Kalen DeBoer. I think he was the right hire. I think he's a good coach. But I think that he's, there's a learning curve to this, and maybe some things have not gone as he expected them to.
DJ Pitt, with the way Bama's playing, the way Tennessee's playing, this should be a really good game on Saturday. Roll Tide. No, I agree with that.
It'll be competitive.
For sure. How many yards rushing did Alabama have on Saturday?
Was that 103?
Hold on. I can tell you exactly. 104.
Okay.
104.
Because the question was, didn't Alabama have less than 100 yards? No, just over.
104. You had Jam Miller with 42, Milroe 36, Justice Haynes had 26. They had 38 carries for 104 yards. That's 2.7 yards per carry.
And for what it's worth, Jam Miller on the season is averaging a little over 8 carries per game and 7 yards per attempt. Maybe increase those.
Scott texts in and says when Oklahoma fires Brent Venables, Bama needs to then hire him as our DC.
It is interesting because I was told that already Chuck Morrell was taking more of an active role in the defense. He's the special assistant to the head football coach at Alabama. He does not have an on-the-field role, but I was told last week that he was becoming a little bit more involved in what was going on. Alabama's got like 3 coordinators, right? 3 defensive coordinators.
Yep.
You've got 2 co-defensive.
Linguist, the guy from Wisconsin.
Hitchler.
Yep.
And then Womack.
Yeah. But if you watched Womack and his actions on the sideline on Saturday, it might give you an indication of what's happening. Do you remember that last year when Lane Kiffin said that
T-Rob was running the defense?
T-Rob was running the defense. It wasn't Kevin Steele.
Would have been nice to keep him from Georgia. Might help right now.
This one rolls in. Morning. As for clock awareness, players should be aware of what to do, should be discussed briefly in the huddle. Thanks, Philip. Thank you, Philip.
And again, I understand that's not a glamorous way to win a game by converting a third down and taking a knee and icing the clock, but a win's a win, right? And you almost allowed yourself to lose that game because you wanted to score.
I'm monitoring the Tennessee press conference. So Heupel and the players are meeting, and Tennessee center Cooper Mays just said, when you turn the film on for the Alabama defensive line, it is God-given talent and violence. That's the way he's describing the Alabama defensive line.
There is God-given talent on there, but not a lot else sometimes.
Violence.
You don't see a whole lot of violence?
No. Nope. How many missed tackles?
11.
Yep.
This one says, got to give DeBoer some credit here. He's done something Saban was never able to do. Keep the fans in the stands until the end of the game. I see what you did there.
That's fair.
Got to be the shirt, swarm, in all capital letters. Lori from Moody. I agree, Coach looked uncomfortable Saturday. I can't believe some Bama fans, they're more concerned about what he's wearing instead of how Bama is playing in football. I don't care what he wears as long as we win.
Hoodie's undefeated.
The interception at the end of the game, did he have to run out of the end zone or would it have been a safety?
My understanding is that it would have been a safety because the rule is if you make an interception, the momentum of the catch carries you into the end zone, then it's not a safety.
Correct.
But if you go back and watch it, it more so carried him to about the 2-yard line. And
then he ran into the end zone.
Yes. But it was kind of weird because if you go back and watch that play, the South Carolina receiver, I think it was Harbor, he's just kind of standing there. He could have very easily tackled Damani Jackson in the end zone and gotten the safety, but you could tell that everyone was just kind of confused.
Conrad is a fake Alabama fan. Can he go be an Auburn fan for us real Bama fans that care? Bama still wins the Natty, RMFT. You fake Alabama fan, you.
I'm glad that
I can promise you, Conrad, he is carrying out the fake, though, because I follow the text thread during Alabama games, and he sure sells it like he cares. Just trying to stick up for you, Conrad.
I got to play it up. I'm glad there's still people out there convinced that there's nothing wrong with Alabama. I don't know what games you've been watching the past few weeks, but props to you.
Jonathan says, I'm not sure that I've ever seen such high expectations from a first-year coach at a major university. I have.
I mean, people, again, I think people just forget that when Nick Saban went to Alabama, wasn't in the same spot that it was when Kalen DeBoer took this team out. I mean, they were a play away from a national championship last year.
And Dave says, still won with a bunch of mistakes. Keep it up, Bama fans, and coach will kick rocks. T-shirts and smiling are ridiculous things to fuss about. Hashtag we are spoiled. Keep them rolling in. Kalen DeBoer at the top of the hour in his press conference presented by Evolve IT as we roll on Reaction Monday and Jocks 94.5. 11:47 here on Three Man Front. We'll get back to your phone calls and your texts at the top of the hour. Caitlin DeBoer, his weekly press conference live from the Capstone presented by Evolve IT. How about our friends at Dobbs Ford? It's the newest Ford dealership in town, and I'm so excited. I'm going to be driving one of the new Broncos. It's not just the Broncos Sports. How about an F-150, an Explorer, a Mustang? Alabama's largest showroom selection is found there at Dobbs Ford. Truly a family business with the Goshens as the managing partners. Everyone you meet there at Dobbs Ford, you're just going to be enamored with how much they genuinely care, and you're going to be able to tell it when you walk onto the lot, when you walk into the showroom, right there on Parkway East in Birmingham, DobbsFordBirmingham.com, DobbsFordBirmingham.com. Top dollar for your trade, total transparency, and they'll beat any competitor's price. Go see and feel the difference at Dobbs Ford.
1-800-239-WJOX, the text line brought to you by Courtesy GMC, 205-834-9450. Let's go back to the phones here on Three Man Front on this Reaction Monday.
With certain Alabama games, his poetry likes to depict with that and more. I give you Crimson Convict. How about that? Welcome.
Hey, what's up? What's up, my friends? How y'all doing?
We're okay. How are you after Saturday? Did they win or they lose? Can't decipher.
It's a loss.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a loss. It's a loss. Well, I was telling Conrad that I was right on the edge of those strip pits in Blount County, and he knows exactly where I'm talking about.
Oh, my.
But I had a question for you guys. Do you not agree this is an elimination game for both teams on Saturday?
I agree. 100%.
Feels that way.
Gotta be.
It's crazy to think about 3 weeks ago, and I was one of them. I was buying all in as Tennessee, one of the best teams in the conference. The way that the way that they were playing both offensively and defensively.
Yeah, for sure.
And then all of a sudden you go to Arkansas and then you barely beat Florida in overtime.
No, you're not the only one, Pat. No, I think they had us all fooled.
No, I bought into it. I mean, my poetry reflected so. But both the schedules line up pretty similar. The loser, Alabama, will be staring down Death Valley, which I'm almost certain will be a 6:30 kickoff. The Vols got to go between the hedges. So it's a must-win for both teams. Whoever loses this game on Saturday is done in the college football playoff. Because I do see Bama dropping one more, and possibly at LSU. But and I'm going to tell you something, man. That Vanderbilt loss, I think by the end of the season, is not going to look as bad as we think it did.
I agree with that. Well, I mean, based on what Vandy has left, and if they play the way they have been playing the last couple of weeks, they're going to get a few more W's. I mean, this will be a bowl eligible team. So if anybody took the over, which was what, 3.5 when the season their win total, I mean, you're already in the good.
And I mean, they have Ball State this week. They're right there. I think they're number 26 in the AP poll. Vanderbilt could be in the top 25 when they have Texas come to Nashville, and that could be a top 25 matchup of Vanderbilt and Texas, which is very bizarre.
Thought that was going to happen.
but also, and you mentioned it, Crimson Convict. This is an LSU team. When you look at the rest of their schedule, you got to go to Arkansas, you got to go to College Station, you get Alabama at home, travel to Florida, Vanderbilt at home, and then you get Oklahoma at home. I'm not saying that they win all of those games. I'm not convinced that LSU is the second best team in the SEC, but with this LSU team, I could see them winning against all of those opponents, to your point, and that would put them in the SEC championship game.
Best path. By far best path, in my opinion. But, yeah, it's a must-win, guys. I'm going to tell you something, man. I'm not confident at all. We got some things to figure out. And I'll definitely have one for you next week regardless. But good talking to you, boys. I'll try to catch up with you tomorrow.
Yeah, please
Thanks.
do, Crimson Convict.
The other big news coming out of Rocky Top, and we talked about it a little bit earlier if you're just now tuning in, Tennessee linebacker Keenan Pilley, he will be out the rest of the season. He tore his ACL. How big is this a loss for Tennessee? He is tied with defensive back Will Brooks as the Vols' leading tackler with 29 stops. He also has recorded 3 pass breakups and 1.5 tackles for loss, and he's the signal caller. And Heupel does not know yet who exactly. They're going to try to figure that out, I guess, today at practice, who is going to be wearing the communications from the defensive staff. But that is a huge loss. We'll talk to Ryan Callahan from Vols 247 tomorrow on the show, kind of a preview of the third Saturday in October. But this is big. for Tennessee to lose him.
Yeah, really good point. And yeah, who's going to be wearing that? Who do you have take over? And this is a Tennessee team that I think their defense has actually been better than I thought that they were going to be coming into the season. It's now a question of the offense and getting that thing rolling the way that they like it. And for Alabama fans and Kalen DeBoer, you hope that it doesn't happen this weekend. We'll continue with your phone calls. Let's go to Lee. He wants to chime in on Reaction Monday. Lee, welcome in a three-man front.
Hey, thanks, gentlemen, for taking my call. I just want to say also, Vanderbilt, in my opinion, is getting the shaft by the people that do the polls, because there are two teams like in the AP top 25 that have two losses, Ole Miss and Michigan. Neither one of those teams beat the consensus number one team in the nation, and Vanderbilt's 4-2. I'm not saying that Vanderbilt's one of the top 10 teams in the nation, but they should be ranked in the top 25, in my opinion, based strictly on their resume. And if nothing else, and who has Michigan beat or played? Nobody. They're 4-2. So why is Michigan ranked and Vanderbilt isn't? It all has to do with bias, with name bias, when it comes down to this.
Well,
Vanderbilt
lost to Georgia State, though. That one hurts.
That one stings.
That's true. They did beat Alabama, though.
They did.
And Georgia State, but that was their first, if I'm not mistaken, wasn't Georgia State their first game of the season?
No, it was like their third or fourth.
No, the first game of the year, they upset Virginia Tech.
Then they beat a Alcorn State team, and then they went and they lost at Georgia State. Played a close game in 2 overtimes at Missouri, beat Alabama, and then what they just did on the road. They'll get their due. They got Ball State. I don't know how much credit they're going to get. Unfortunately for Vanderbilt, then they get Texas. They're at Auburn versus South Carolina, at LSU versus Tennessee to end the season. So
as long as Diego Pavia stays upright for the rest of the season, I think Vanderbilt will be a difficult out.
Yeah, for sure.
Oh, beyond any shadow of a doubt, but I'd love to see them ranked in the top 25. And after Ball State, that's going to be a pretty tough road to hoe. You know that as well as I do. But the fact that Virginia Tech was ranked, if I'm not mistaken, when Vanderbilt beat them.
Correct.
And then Alabama was ranked. They've already beat 2 ranked teams. It's just, granted, that Georgia State loss is looking, I totally forgot that was one of their losses. That's looking pretty bad. But still, I really think they should be, and I don't know if Vanderbilt's ever been ranked within the last 20 years in the top 25.
James Franklin had him in the top 25.
Yeah.
He had a 9-3, didn't he?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, they were legitimately very good under James Franklin.
Then I guess I'm just showing just how stupid I really am.
No, not at all. It's all.
But they should be ranked in the top 25 right now, in my opinion, because they are better than a couple of teams that are ranked. But he said I think they're ranked 26.
Yeah, they're 26 right now.
That's just one outside, but still.
Beat Ball State, and you'll probably get in next week. The problem is then you got to play a Texas team, and Texas, they might name their score there in Nashville.
Would College Game Day go to Vanderbilt for Texas and Vandy top 25 matchup?
I'd have to see the rest of the slate, but my first inclination is to say
but they're
no.
in Austin this week. Would they do Texas back-to-back weeks?
I think so.
That's true. Probably not.
But anyhow, gentlemen, y'all got the best show in the world. Thank you very much.
Hey, Lee, we appreciate you, man. Thank you. Have a great rest of your Monday.
They might be at LSU, Texas A&M.
All right. Is it consensus we all believe that Texas is the best team, not only in the country, but the SEC?
Yes.
Yeah, no doubt.
I don't think there's any.
Yeah.
I think there's a gap between them and everybody else.
It pains me, but.
And the country. Yeah. They're pretty good.
I mean,
they're really good.
Georgia continues to have massive problems in the secondary.
And Texas didn't even, they played very well, but Quinn Ewers did not look particularly sharp early in that game, and they still won by 30 plus points. So, yeah, they're good.
That defense give up a field goal. That particular game, I don't care who the quarterback is, that's strong. 31 unanswered.
In a rivalry? Yeah.
They look good. Just waiting for Texas to see if they're going to Texas. I don't know if they do. They still got some games left, though. We'll continue. Coming up next, we're going to hear from Kalen DeBoer, head coach at the University of Alabama.
We are back for the 12 o'clock hour here on Three Man Front. Pat Smith, Landrum Roberts, Conrad Van Orr, Molly Robinson. We are awaiting Kalen DeBoer to step behind the microphone. We've already heard from Hugh Freeze earlier today. Hugh Freeze told us that they've got most of the game plan in last week during the bye week. Now it's just a matter of execution at practice this week. Calls Missouri's Eli Drinkwitz one of his closest friends in the coaching world. And he also mentioned a little message that he had for the 2025 recruits out there. Touches on Auburn's recent history of playing for national titles. Quoting Hugh Freeze, "We've proven we can. We've got the resources now. Let's get the roster." End of quote. Big news out of Rocky Top as Tennessee linebacker Keenan Pili is lost for the year. Let's go to Tuscaloosa now. Here is Kalen DeBoer.
Good morning, and just rolling from South Carolina to Tennessee. Guys start the week, as we always do with Sunday, and just, bringing a good mindset, putting the work into the workouts, wanting to, continue to always learn and get better from the things that happen on a Saturday, and a lot of highlights. Obviously, a lot of things that you always got to continue to clean up, and it's in all phases of the game. But moving to Tennessee, we know we're really looking forward to. Exciting. Obviously, this game is a big deal to to fans and obviously to us, and we understand that's the case for them as well. So looking forward to a really high level, heightened week with preparation and a big game on Saturday.
Thank you, Coach. Let's start with Nick, front right. Yeah, following up about Tennessee, what have you been told about this rivalry, or what have you seen from it, maybe from afar?
Yeah, I've been told it's a big deal, and I know it's a big deal. You see it from afar, and it's these are the games, much like we've had already won a couple here, and just they're the big ones that are on the schedule. As a coach, they're all big, right, in different ways, and you take one at a time. But we certainly understand the significance of the rivalry, and guys are going to be very motivated to go out and do their best and prepare well and be great on Saturday.
Charlie?
Just sitting at the midway point in the regular season, how would you assess the defense's play from an execution standpoint?
Yeah, I think there's every week something a little different that presents itself. I know the last couple of weeks, the big thing that's been focused on has been getting off the field. And so, you look at yards per play, and we're making some teams earn it, but we just got to get off the field. And when those drives continue to stack on top of each other and there's more plays that your defense is having to play, it starts to wear you down and a little bit more. I think our guys, fortunately we rotate enough in to where we can hang in there for 4 quarters. But there's always going to be little elements, and it's not just defense, but it's offense and areas that are going to pop up, and the way people attack and the way someone may view your schemes or your personnel. And so, you continue to work on those things that we know we got to get better at and emphasize, but we also got to be ready for those other things too that just are part of the game, and making sure we got the answers, whether it's schematics or just that our guys are confident going out there and playing. This is part of the process. This is part of the progress that's got to be there when you're instituting new systems. I was thinking, I saw this, it must have been South Florida week, and I was sitting there watching last year's game, and I've had this happen everywhere I've been, but you look at a play call, all right, and I happened to watch the South Florida game of us versus them last year, and the play calls from last year are on that play, and those play calls have the same names, right? It's just called something different. But there might be play calls that are called something like a year ago that are something completely opposite or different in your system. And now, that's just something that's just part of the progress is guys processing. You're throwing something new at our guys to add to our schemes, to add to our concepts and the depth of what we do each and every week. And then they also have to do what we're doing and execute well against whatever we're seeing in front of us. And you try to find that fine balance on running what is your identity, what is your DNA of the systems you run, but also continue to build on those maybe families of what you do well, or continue to just grow, your entire offense, defense, special teams. So this is just part of it. Been through it many times. A lot of the ups and downs that you have, or maybe just execution didn't go as well as you want. Sometimes that's not the base stuff you do, but it's just the things that you have to continue to incorporate to continue to get to where you want to be, because it's got to be a volume of things over the course of a 12, 13, 14, or whatever the season is, and the length of it.
Go Chase, left side.
Coach Womack was asked this a minute ago, but I want to ask you as well. The shovel pass has hurt y'all defensively. Obviously, the last couple of games, South Carolina came back with 1 after Vanderbilt sprung 2. Just from a game planning standpoint, is that something you got to expect to see once a week until you get it stopped?
No question. I mean, and it's going to get thrown at you different ways. The personnel or the formations that people line up in, you're going to try to find, from an offensive standpoint, putting those, shoes on and just trying to, understand what that's going to look like in their scheme. And so it's going to be presented a different way. It's 15, 20 years ago. I was running that quite a bit myself. It's because it's a play that, you have to defend. And, again, it might be presentation off of a boot. It might be presentation, a sprint out option. But you got to identify where everyone's at. Everyone's got to fit their gaps. Apply your rules is really the significance of it. And, people are going to use different things to try to really challenge your eye discipline as a defense. And that's one of the plays that obviously the last 2 weeks has been utilized in that way to challenge us in that regard.
Got a few questions from the back of the room. Ryan?
Coach, college football is based on a lot of traditions, a lot of games. To piggyback off what Nick asked you, what did you hear about this Tennessee game? And kind of a two-parter, are you a fan of cigars?
I know that this tradition goes back quite a ways. I know that cigars are a part of it. But I know that what I'm trying to do is just make sure we do our part as a football program and, prepare so that people can celebrate and enjoy the rivalry on our end. And a lot of respect for Tennessee, their coaches, their players. But, we're just pouring into the things we can control, what we can focus, and, want to bring that joy to, not just the hard work we put in personally and within this team, but also so our fan base can enjoy it as well.
Jonathan.
Hey, Coach, I believe just a few targets to Ryan Williams in the first 3 quarters of the game. As you guys go through conference play, how do you balance trying to get him the ball and also versus what the defense is maybe giving you?
Yeah, there's a couple more that, we didn't get where it didn't get to him or get completed. Ones where we were really trying to be intentional, whether it's a screen or just a matchup one-on-one. There's another 1 or 2 where the ball in a progression very well could have got to him, just like the other plays that he's had throughout the season where he might not be the number 1 option, but the progression will a lot of times take you there. He's got to be a guy that we're always really paying attention to as far as the number of targets. And, I think for the most part, we understand who those guys are. And a lot of them are in the starting lineup and maybe just the next guys in, that you have to be really make sure in the game plan that they're involved. And so that will always be the case. We got to continue to emphasize that, something we always look at each and every week as we lay out the whole plan.
From the tape, what kind of challenges does Tennessee's quarterback present your defense this weekend?
Yeah, I think he's got he's a live arm, extremely talented. You can tell that they got the skill on the outside to where, they can hit the home run and make big plays anytime. I think a lot of it is just trying to disrupt him to where the continuity and the flow, is just not consistent. And that's going to be any quarterback every week. That's the goal, is try to just really cause some chaos and change things up on them. They get into their tempo off of positive plays, and that's the key, is try to make sure that they don't get into that rhythm. Just like any offense, that's what you're trying to do. And he's talented. You can see it's there. He's still, I think, growing and developing, and we just got to make sure we disrupt him enough and make sure we're showing pictures and also getting bodies on the outside to where we make life hard like we would want to any other opponent.
Back on the left side of the room, Katie.
After Jalen threw that interception at the beginning of the fourth quarter, what did you see from him to kind of bounce back and put the mistakes behind him for the rest of the fourth quarter? And just is that an area he's kind of matured in?
Yeah, and I'm really intentional with him because I know how hard he is on himself, and this is really going back to, I wasn't with him last year, but I know in spring ball and just how he was, and knowing that we are fighting for each other, fighting with each other. That's just not me and him. That's our football team. When we're in those moments, it's all about moving forward. No regrets when we walk off this football field, knowing we've given everything we've got, and that's just what I try to do when it comes to those times. Not just with him, with our whole team. And those tight game moments. We're all in this together, and we want to continue to learn. And so I'm going to remind him, coach him up on the situations we're in, how to apply the things we've talked about, throughout the course of our time together so far, how to learn what's happened in this game, and then just continue to move on. And we just keep stacking these moments on top of these moments. He'll remember, anything that happened this game. He's going to remember what happened to him 4 weeks ago, and that's what I love about him. I mean, he is up here, he lives up here pretty much, wanting to be around the coaches. It's not just me, it's other staff members. And, just from my standpoint, to answer your question, I think, it's just a matter of continue to move forward, process, go 1-0, as you've heard many of our players say, and what that all means. Learn from it, flush it, play in the present, next play mindset.
Alex.
You had a pure feature back with Dylan Johnson at Washington, but here it's obviously a little bit different with Jam and Justice, and obviously Jalen Milroe getting the football. With Jam and Justice, I think they're averaging 15 carries per game between the two of them. Is that kind of the number that you'd like to see? And does that limit them? Maybe that's the wrong word. Does it limit them in terms of the role they're able to get on as a running back when they're not fed consistently?
Yeah, I think you want to have two. We were kind of more forced, as you referred to, Dylan, a year ago, to have that with some injuries to other guys. That number, I think we would love to see that be higher. Now, how come that number is lower? I think it gets taken from, some of Jay Mills' carries, which, how can you argue with some of that when you're rattling off the runs he's had? There's that fine line on using him and keeping him fresh and using these other guys. I thought Jam and Justice ran very hard. I thought the run game in the Georgia game, I thought we were very close to having some runs that really developed. And I thought there was another level of physicality by our offensive line and an execution that was just not just in practice, but also in the game this close. I thought that would really take the next step in the Vanderbilt game. Felt good about the week of practice because of the flow of the game. Again, probably not as many carries as in touches, but you can see there was an intentionality to what we were doing. And it wasn't just maybe in the run game. It's getting them out and doing different things with them. We've seen, touchdown catches and balls out on routes to both of them. They are very critical to our offense. They're extremely athletic. They can do it all. They're, every down backs in their own right. And we need to continue to grow. And I think we took another step this week. I think South Carolina had a very strong defensive front, not just up front, but tying the linebacker core and how they fit. And that was going to be a challenge going in. And I thought we took another step in our physicality and our execution. Thought those guys ran hard as well.
Go to Emily Grace, right up the middle here.
Coach, what's the in-game adjustment process like between you and Coach Womack?
Yeah, I think the key in any game plan is to try to have really almost everything you have in the plan as far as your adjustments. Now, when you're on defense, I think there are some things that will pop up that you haven't seen on film, that you got to refer back to something that you've done with calls in the past. And you try to really minimize that as much, because the things you practice are the things the guys are comfortable with, especially week 5, 6, still as a new team with a new defensive scheme. And so, we don't have a lot of these banked reps from a year ago with all our guys, or even 10 or 11 games worth. It's it's new things that pop up, and we try to make the simplest adjustments to where our guys can still play fast. Down the road, this will all continue to bank as far as the reps we have, the experiences we have. We can recall on something that we did as an adjustment, in the past, hopefully in the future, and execute quicker and better in the games ahead. But as far as the process between he and I, we're just constantly, between series, talking on the phones real quick, just like I do with the offensive side, just hearing what the next move is, or for offense would be, hey, what are you thinking the next drive? What's the starter? What's your next third and medium, third and short, third and long? And then also defensively, what are some of those adjustments maybe in those situations, or how we think they're going to come out based on the flow of the situation in the game.
Let's finish up with Tony here.
Is it easier or harder to scout a team when it's struggling? Because you know you're going to get maybe some changes from them, but at the same time maybe you're seeing their weaknesses. What is it? Does it?
Are you referring to obviously? What are you? Any opponent? Okay. Well, that they're going through it, and I'm speaking really generally right now because that's the question. So, yeah, that they're going to continue to try to find the things that really work well for them, and you got to be ready for anything and everything. But I think at this point in the year, there's still going to be some type of basis that you work off of, and those added things. They got to execute them well too, and that's where we're at. We got things that we want to add in and continue to do, but we got to get enough reps at them in practice on top of the things that we already a part of our identity. Because if you can't execute it well in an SEC game when things are moving that fast and there's that many good players on the football field, that can backfire, that can hurt you. And so the key is making sure we do what we do, apply our rules and everything that we have, whether it's offense, defense, special teams, and then be disciplined with it. And that's, going to be the name of the game here, this week, every week, moving forward.
All right, thank you, Coach.
Thank you. Roll Tide.
That was Kalen DeBoer wrapping things up in Tuscaloosa. When we come back on Three Man Front, we'll kind of break down what you heard the head football coach of the University of Alabama had to say. Also want to tell everyone about our good friends at Alabama Professional Services. You see the warning signs, windows or doors that stick, cracks in the brick or the block of your home, leaning on those bowing walls in your basement, settling or sinking of your house. How much time before that little problem becomes a major structural problem with your home? You can't afford to wait. Call APS today. The number, 205-951-9717. They can give you a free estimate. If you have a wet basement, they can also take a look at your situation, assess the problem, give you a plan moving forward of which you can dry out your basement and, again, put that shield up where you won't have those problems, because that mold and mildew and rot and air quality issues, that could be persistent moving forward. Foundation problems don't get better with time. They get better when you call APS, 205-951-9717, or visit their website, alabamaprofessional.com.
We continue Reaction Monday. We'll get the reaction to what we just heard from Alabama head football coach Kalen DeBoer. That and more. Three Man Front and Jocks, 94.5.
It is 12:22, Jocks 94.5. At the top of the hour, we will talk to Coach Bill Clark. Interesting weekend that we'll get his thoughts on, including Alabama's near disaster loss at home. Auburn had a bye week, and also UAB. Man, just another really rough weekend to be a Blazer fan as they go to West Point, New York, and they lose to the West Pointers, who's now ranked in the top 25.
They good.
Well, if you're going to any of the games this weekend, you need to check out the Pants Store. They have a huge selection of all things game day clothing, shoes, and accessories. From rompers and sets to boots and clear bags, they will definitely have you covered. And don't forget to get a game day outfit for your husband or for your boyfriend as well. The Pants Store, they have a game day outfit for the entire family, so shop online at pantsstore.com or in store at one of their 6 locations in Alabama.
So no really breaking news. What we just heard from Kalen DeBoer, his 15 minutes meeting with the media. Our good friend Ryan Hennessy, he tried to get him to bite on the cigar line.
Yep.
And
doesn't seem to have the rapport that he had with Nick Saban, does he? I said that, Ryan. Love
I didn't,
you, man.
Ryan. I didn't, Ryan. I thought it was, I'd give you an A for effort.
You used to get Saban a smile. Saban would feed into to your silly questions.
Yep.
No, I commend him for asking the question, but Kalen DeBoer was not going to. So we still don't know if he's going to partake in a victory cigar.
I think the way things have been going, I think he would just be happy to get on that plane 1 point ahead of Tennessee.
There's no doubt. And that was evidenced by his response to that question.
Yeah.
My job is to make sure that we win the game so all of you fans
y'all can enjoy the smoke you want
and enjoy the tradition that has been set forth many, many moons ago by other great people here at the University of Alabama.
Hey, I'll take a 1-point win. I'll be happy with that. I'll take it.
All right, so more news out of Tennessee. Linebacker Keenan Pilley, he will miss the remainder of the season with a torn ACL in 6 games this year. Pilley is tied with DB Will Brooks as the Vols' leading tackler, 29 tackles this year. Pilley has also recorded 3 passes broken up and 1.5 tackles for loss. That was not the only bad news on the injury front in college football today. Graham Mertz, he is done. He's already sent out a fancy graphic saying that he is finished at the University of Florida, but he will remain around the team as he tore his ACL. Notre Dame starting cornerback Benjamin Morris, he has now been ruled out for the season with a hip injury, so that hurts Notre Dame's secondary. And Cam Rising, who the other night looked as rusty as an old nail, he was bad, real bad against Arizona State. Utah has just announced he is out indefinitely, so he is back on the shelf. So it's just been one of those days when it comes to injuries.
He's going to kill it selling car insurance there.
Yeah, and I didn't realize when I looked at Notre Dame's schedule, I knew that they had Navy, and that game is coming up in East Rutherford. But they also have Army on that schedule, and they're going to play that one at Yankee Stadium, November 23rd.
And you know what? Here's the thing. It's going to help Notre Dame's strength of schedule out.
No doubt.
I mean, at the beginning of the year.
If they win the game.
Yeah, because we're like, okay, well, they lost to Northern Illinois. They got a problem now because what other games are going to be left on their schedule that's going to really help them out? Well, now you got Navy and Army.
So now you got 2.
I will go ahead and say it. Those are your 2 toughest games that you have left. And that includes USC at the end of the year on the road. Navy and Army, good luck. Have fun with that.
The Courtesy GMC text line, 205-834-9450. And Molly, I know you have got, 8 pages of text.
Oh, I've got a ton. Alex from Tarrant. Hopefully we've been prepping the last 2 weeks for Tennessee. The last 2 weeks have been the worst prepared Alabama team I've seen in years. Very disappointing.
They definitely did not look prepared against Vanderbilt. They looked shell-shocked. But they also looked like when they fell behind 13-0, in my opinion, that they were going to be Alabama and they were going to be able to just steamroll their way, and it was going to be an ugly win, but Alabama was going to take care of business.
Jared and Hoover, the SEC is going to chew each other up, and we won't have anyone left standing for the CFP. The bottom of the league is much better than it has been in the past.
Y'all agree with that? Bottom of the league?
Yeah, I agree with that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I still think SEC will be fine in the playoff. It's just maybe it's not going to be the teams that we originally thought it was going to be in the playoff. Plus Texas right now, I mean,
okay,
they just look head and shoulders
It's
above
Texas
everybody.
and then everybody else, but do you feel better about having 3 teams from the SEC now? Texas and 2 more or Texas and 3 more?
I would say today I would feel comfortable guaranteeing 3. And those 3 are going to
most likely you would say Georgia.
LSU all of a sudden is trending big time.
LSU should be trending.
And where's Texas A&M? They're undefeated.
Exactly. Where's Texas A&M? They still have to play LSU. Alabama still has to play LSU.
That last game of the season could be a very interesting with Texas and A&M.
I feel more confident in Alabama getting to a playoff, and we're going to see the head-to-head on Saturday, but then I do Tennessee. I don't know why.
Just keep your eye on that Arkansas-LSU game Saturday night.
It's going to be a good one. It's in Fayetteville, right?
Yep.
It's going to be a good one.
It's a red out.
No way. It's a red out. Well. I'm going to fire in right now.
Don't they wear red most of the time anyway?
Yeah,
they do, but a lot of times they'll feature white pants. So they're going to
go red pants? Oh. Head to toe, nothing but red.
All red? Okay.
Do we have that option? Ooh.
Red breeches. Is that what you're searching? Red breeches?
Yeah. I found some red breeches that we can order for us. I don't know. Are they if it's a red out, don't you go all red?
That's the fans are told to wear red. I mean, they sent out a graphic yesterday that said red out.
So Arkansas is going to go all white.
Yeah, they've got that in the arsenal if they want to do it.
I don't know. Have they ever worn red breeches?
Yes, I think they have. Yes, they've definitely worn red breeches because they used to wear the red breeches when they played on the road. And I think maybe sometimes they still do, but that was back in the Houston Nut days.
Oh. Yeah, I vaguely remember, I guess, now that you mention it. I think under Houston Nut, they might have done that.
Yeah.
Dalvin in Chattanooga. I will continue to say that Womack is the problem. He doesn't have the defense ready week in and week out. Tennessee is going to light us up and take years of frustration out on us. Going to be a bad third Saturday.
Well, one thing's for sure, Tennessee has not set the world on fire offensively of the last 2 games. Now, Tennessee's defense still is number 2 in the SEC, right behind Texas.
But as you brought up earlier, I guess if you want optimism for the Alabama side of things, is Florida was able to put together very, very good drives. They just weren't able to come away with points on them, but they were able to get themselves in situations to not only chew up clock, but potentially score. They just couldn't, get the ball in the end zone or through the uprights. So maybe that gives you a little confidence if you're Alabama.
Tennessee is now behind Arkansas in total offense. Mississippi, Texas, Arkansas, and then Tennessee. That's your top 4 in the SEC.
I'll just tell you right now, I love the under in this game on Saturday. I think that's going to be a popular pick.
By the way, Auburn's got a better offense than Alabama.
And by the way, I showed you the photo, but the photo that we saw of Arkansas in the all reds, that came against the picture
LSU?
that was provided. It actually came against LSU.
Huh.
LSU, a 3-point favorite. Ew. 6 o'clock.
Coming off a big win. We will continue with your text messages as Molly, we have just barely, scratched the surface.
Oh, I still have 7 more pages.
7 more pages of text messages has come in.
We do have phone calls as well. We can get to those. 800-239-WJOX. How about Mandu in downtown Homewood? We got Halloween coming up, in just a couple of weeks. How about all that Halloween candy you like to steal out of your kid's bag when they go trick-or-treating? How about the Thanksgiving holidays coming up next month? And, of course, all the holiday parties. And then the month of December. How about getting a jump start on your health? Mandu in downtown Homewood. You want to call it boutique fitness? That's fine, because Mandu, it's a 15-minute workout. That's right. Electrical muscle stimulation fitness. They're going to put you in a suit. They're going to hook you up to a machine that sends electric pulses to various parts of your body. If you're trying to add muscle, lose weight, build up endurance, or just overall feel better, You can do it at Mandu. Month of October, you can receive all kinds of promotional discounts on your monthly membership. Just mention Jocks and just tell Paul and the gang that you want to feel better. Your first visit is free, and they'll put you through that workout. 15 minutes, that's all it takes at Mandu. Damian Mitchell's gotten results here at Jocks. I've gotten results. So many of our other Jocks listeners that have taken me up on it, they've gotten results as well. Follow them on Facebook, on Instagram, at Mandu Homewood. Mandu in downtown Homewood. Make sure you tell them Landrum from Jocks 94.5 sent you. We continue with your phone calls and your texts as we continue Reaction Monday. 3-man front, your home for college football and more. Jocks 94.5.
At 1 o'clock, we'll talk to Coach Bill Clark, get his thoughts on a interesting weekend of college football. Not as many upsets, but a lot of people in the state of Alabama kind of wringing their hands after this previous weekend's action. I ran into Drew Lawley on Friday night, the general manager at Courtesy GMC, and he was just telling me that this deal that they have right now on the Yukons and the Yukon XLs, $9,000 off MSRP. Needless to say, there are plenty of people taking advantage of this incredible deal. It's the discount that you're not going to find anywhere else except right there at Courtesy GMC in Trussville, off of exit 32, off of I-459. Go by and see Drew, Josh Gargis, and the whole team there at Courtesy GMC. When these Yukons and Yukon XLs, when they are dropped at the lot, they have literal people waiting on these vehicles, and they are gone before you know it. So take advantage of its incredible deal, $9,000 off MSRP. They also there on the lot have the 2025 GMC Sierras. They are rolling in daily as well. They have SLTs, Denali Ultimates, AT4s, whatever trim level you're looking for. They've got it up to $7,000 off MSRP on 2025 GMC Sierras. Go by and see them very soon. They got TVs there in the showroom. You can shop on the weekends. Big football games going on. You're not going to miss a thing. You can also shop online at courtesybirmingham.com. Courtesy GMC brings us our text line, Molly, and I know the texts are continuing to roll in.
Oh, yes. Let's start with Bronson in Trustful. He says, Fairweather fans, I'm so sick of those that don't support the team and just bitch and complain. We're 5-1 and a top 10 team, and yes, there are plenty of things to work on, but come on and get off of DeBoer. He is 6 games into his career at Bama.
Do you agree with that, Conrad?
I'm going to be honest, I didn't hear it. I was dealing with a computer issue.
Oh.
I apologize. Should I agree with it, Pat?
Should he agree with it?
Give
Langstrom?
DeBoer, he's 6 games into his career. Let's relax on Kalen DeBoer.
Oh, yeah. I 100% agree with that. I said it earlier. I think he is
When I
a
say
great head coach.
let's, that's for the people that are convinced that he's going to be a massive failure at Alabama. That does not include anyone here in this room.
No, I think he's going to have a very successful tenure at Alabama. It's just not great right now.
Garrett from Gardendale says, all phases, Alabama is just not good. I'm afraid this is the team we have, and I hope changes are coming on the defensive staff. I would take Pete Golding in a heartbeat right now. Womack has to go.
I don't know about that part.
Pete Golding, that defense versus South Carolina, yes.
How many times could Ole Miss not? You want to talk about not getting off the field? Oh my gosh! And then I can't wait to talk to Bill Clark during the podcast this week because I want to see him and have him try to demonstrate the whole loading one side of the line. You remember when Ole Miss was rushing 3?
Mm-hmm.
They had 4 down linemen, but 3 of them were rushing as a pack.
Yeah,
on one side of the LSU offensive line. It never worked, and they kept doing it. I'm just curious.
Anderson looked pretty good in that game.
Justin and Pelham, this is in all caps, by the way. Cut DeBoer some slack. Saban barely beat Arkansas, Texas A&M, and Auburn last season. In DeBoer, we trust.
Yeah, it drove him to retirement. He had already.
So are you saying, are you calling right now Kalen DeBoer is going to retire from football after this season?
What's a great thing for Kalen DeBoer and so many others like him? He could retire and never have to do anything again.
Who was that texter again?
His
Justin and Pelham.
His children or his grandchildren.
Justin and Pelham is 1,000% correct. I mean, this Alabama team has not been the dominant Alabama team that we saw in the between 2010 and 2020 with those teams. I mean, they almost lost at Florida a couple years ago under Nick Saban. They did lose at Texas A&M. They daggum near almost lost to Jimbo. Remember, I mean, I was hoping that Alabama would hang a half 100 on Jimbo. Remember?
Oh, when it came down to the last play of the game.
And that's when we got our first taste of Jalen Milroe, when Jalen Milroe fumbled the ball like 3 or 4 times in that game.
So we attribute all of
Mm-hmm.
this to the transfer portal, right? We're not saying that guys have forgotten how to coach since 2020.
No, I just think the days of you rolling a ball out there on the field and going, we're going to win by 30 and not even think twice about it, those days are over for everybody.
This honestly, and never really felt this way last year, even though I was wrong with some of my Alabama picks, but this year feels like it is more some of these matchups where I question more about what Alabama's going to do in a game. I don't have the overwhelming feeling one way or another like I have with past teams or even earlier in the year. I've seen enough. Not saying that they can't change that.
Steven in Gadsden says, we're going to find out next week how good this team is and what kind of season we're in store for. I believe that we have a very good team and the best is yet to come. The last 2 weeks are nothing new in college football, even at Alabama.
Things can change. You have time to change the perception of this team, but also haven't given a lot of confidence as to that happening these last couple of weeks. But it's possible.
Jaden in Birmingham says, DeBoer is a good coach, I have no doubt, but we're a different animal. The stage might be too big for him. Sark should have been hired. He knows the program and what it means to play joyous murder ball. This West Coast style won't work in Tuscaloosa long term.
Well, Steve Sarkisian's agent used whatever conversation that they had, if they had one, at least Steve Sarkisian's representatives told Texas that there was interest from Alabama, and he used that to parlay immediately for a big raise and extension.
And it's something we brought up before is, look, I understand Kirby Smart. Everyone would have loved if you could have brought Kirby Smart to Tuscaloosa, right? But that was never going to happen. The other people that you wanted, the Sarkisians, the Dan Lannings of the world, Kalen DeBoer is undefeated against those guys. So, again, like, I understand the frustration with it, but this is a guy that has a very good track record. Oh, and by the way, he's now beaten Kirby as well.
Sean from Huntsville, we've won and we've lost once. Just one time. The sky is not falling. There is room for improvement, RTR.
A lot of room for improvement.
They will get an opportunity Saturday in Knoxville to try to right some wrongs.
Kennedy from Hoover, I got nothing for all these people that want to constantly bitch about this team and the coaches. Be happy we're 5-1 and realize that Nick Saban will never coach this team again. Once you fully grasp that, your life will be more enjoyable on football Saturdays.
Collar or no collar, Conrad, you wear that shirt.
Yep.
I feel like I've been pretty even-keeled about things.
On Saturday.
Well, that's different.
You were just sweating that you were going to have two stinky fish situations on your hands.
I don't think that's how that bet works.
No, that's what me and Landrum talked about it.
Oh, okay. I'm glad that.
We can vacuum pack part of the can.
Yes. We got one of those food saver things.
I do have a food saver, but I don't know if I want to use it. I'm going to have to throw it away.
It'll probably disintegrate.
So all it does is, because we said that you're going to have to smell the stuff for 5 minutes. And now every loss is going to be another 5 minutes. So that'll be 10 minutes if they lose to Tennessee.
I don't think that was the agreement, but okay.
5 minutes.
Per loss.
You better have cinder blocks tied to my feet because there's no way I'm sitting there for 5 minutes.
We're going to have IVs ready for you for all the fluids you're going to lose from vomit.
Probably so.
Eat yourself a big old breakfast. Get you one of those big old muffins.
Yes.
Well, I can't because they're half size now.
Well, I meant eat two of them.
Okay.
Eat two of them.
Okay.
And a plate of biscuits and gravy.
Adrian in Birmingham, I've accepted that this Alabama team is going to have to scratch and claw in the unusual easy win games. It is what it is. The team peaked in the first quarter against Georgia.
Well, I think that's what people are concerned with if you're an Alabama fan, is that they may have peaked in that game because you have not seen any semblance of that since.
I like this one. Dax in Montgomery. Did we forget that South Carolina beat the dog mess out of UK? Carolina is not Vandy. Quality SEC team with some really good dudes on the D-line. Yes, we should have covered the spread, but we should not disrespect the Gamecocks.
Okay, well, let me ask y'all this. Personally, I think Vanderbilt's better than South Carolina right now. Would y'all agree with that?
Offensively, yes.
Well, okay, yes.
I actually think South Carolina's defensive front is
they're one of the best in the country.
Is really good.
Very good. But I think overall right now, teams would rather play South Carolina than Vanderbilt.
Yes, I do agree with that.
JC from Tuscaloosa. I'm tired of the quitters in this fan base. College football has changed and we've completely reconstructed the football operation. Growing pains will happen. DeBoer and this program will be fine. Might not play for a natty this season, but you will have to have some patience.
Yeah, Conrad, just patience. It's a virtue.
I did not expect to win a national championship this year. So I'm good. This is, again, I thought it would be the Georgia loss and not Vanderbilt, but this is exactly where I thought Alabama would be.
All right, we will continue with your text messages. The phone lines are open at 1-800-239-WJOX. This is Reaction Monday on Jocks 94.5.
12:51, three-man front. We'll continue your phone calls. Coach Bill Clark coming up at the top of the hour. If you're looking to upgrade and enhance your outdoor living area and landscape, it's a perfect time to do it. Our friends at Second Generation Masonry, that's the team for beautifying any area. Their expert team crafts durable brick, concrete, and elegant stone creations that can elevate any space, from fire pits, maybe an outdoor fireplace, just in time for this time of year. Landscape steps, garden wall, stone patios, and walkways to custom driveways. These are your guys. Take your outdoor living area to the next level. Check out Second Generation Masonry, secondgenerationmasonry.com. Completed projects, both residential and commercial, over 2 decades, right here in the state of Alabama. Great people, secondgenerationmasonry.com. Make sure you tell them Landrum from Jock 94.5 sent you.
So one of the quotes from Kalen DeBoer at his press conference about 45 minutes ago, he was talking about the defensive outlook. He mentioned we're making some teams earn it. We just have to get off the field. I guess that's one way of looking at it. Kind of like that opening drive started the second half as South Carolina just absolutely could not get off the field. They were 5 of 5 right after halftime. They went on that 85-yard, 16-play touchdown drive to take the lead in the football game. They were 5 of 5 on third down. So interesting way and perspective to look at it from DeBoer. We're making teams work for it. It's just we got to get off the field.
We'll continue with your phone calls. Let's go to Brandon. He wants to talk Bama. He's been waiting patiently. Brandon, welcome in.
Good afternoon. How are you?
Doing well, Brandon. How are you?
I'm good, Laser.
Good. What did you want to talk about today?
I think Tennessee will do good. They have a good defense, and they've been scoring a lot of points since the last couple of games they played. Oklahoma. I think they'll beat Tennessee and go into the college football playoff.
All right, so you think they're going to beat Alabama on Saturday?
Yes.
Okay. Do you have a score prediction?
35-28.
35-28, so a close game, but that would mean that Tennessee obviously covers the spread because Alabama's a 2.5-point favorite. Brandon, thank you for the phone call. We appreciate you listening. The three-man front in Jock 94.5. Let's go to Beham Dog. Beham Dog, what's up?
What's up, gentlemen?
How are you, sir?
I'm doing well, doing well. And Conrad, you and I both know if y'all had hired Kirby Smart, Kirby would have never beat Georgia again. That's just how that would have worked. Be careful what you wish for. And hey, and Pat, you were right about Pete Golden's defense. That shift that he was doing, it was the craziest thing I've ever seen.
What did you think that was? I mean, I haven't heard anybody really reference that. It was just bizarre. One time, maybe, but
the
shift.
Yeah, one time, but just to keep doing it.
Yeah.
And it was kind of like he just lived by the philosophy: if it ain't fixed, don't break it.
Yeah, it's about right.
Vice versa. But hey, y'all seem to be a little higher on. And maybe look, I was not very optimistic about the Bama and Georgia game. I think I was openly told y'all that. I am really optimistic about this Georgia and Texas game. I don't know why, but I'm not as high on Texas as I think everybody else is. And I believe this will by far, even with Georgia's deficiencies, and especially in the secondary, this will by far be the first test that Texas has to face. And I'm not sure Texas will be the toughest match for Georgia, because I still think Clemson, the way they're playing, regardless of them being in the ACC, they're demolishing teams right now. And I still think Alabama is one get-right game away from being the best team in the country. And I truly believe that. I'm not just trying to blow smoke. I truly believe that. I'm not real sold. If you look at their best win, maybe Michigan. Michigan is not a real good team. Oklahoma ranks last in the conference in rush offense and pass offense, both. I just don't. I'm not real sold on this Texas team just yet. Now they may go out and blow our doors off. That's very possible the way we play sometimes, but I'm just not sold on Texas just yet.
Well, let me ask you.
I want to get y'all's thoughts. Yes, sir.
Well, I was going to ask you real quick, as a Georgia fan, if they were to lose in Austin and then turn around and lose to Ole Miss, and these are a lot of what ifs, do you think Georgia would still be somewhat in the conversation for the college football playoff with those 3 losses?
No, mainly because the Bama loss is not a good loss right now. It just doesn't look. If you go on the road and you lose the way you did, everybody was pumping up Georgia like, man, they didn't quit. They played well. But that loss now looks a little worse each week that Bama plays bad. And so, no, I don't. I think if we lose 3 games, I think we're out. So
I would like Georgia a lot better in that matchup with Texas BM Dog if the game was being played in Sanford Stadium.
I do too, but it's not Bryant Denny. I don't know. Maybe
No, that's fair.
Crazy. I feel confident about this game way more than I did the Bama game.
Okay. Good stuff. BM Dog, hopefully you can join us tomorrow.
Yes, sir.
Appreciate you. Live at Social Taco in Homewood. We'll continue to take your phone calls in the next hour. Bill Clark joins us to recap what was an exciting for some, disappointing for some as well, college football weekend. 3-man front, Reaction Monday, Jocks 94.5.
It is 1 o'clock. This has been Reaction Monday, as it is each and every Monday here on 3-Man Front. Pat Landrum, Molly, Conrad with you till 2 o'clock. Sure, Paul Feinbaum will have a pretty lively show himself coming up at the top of the hour. We'll hook up with Bill Clark, former UAB head coach, momentarily, get his thoughts over the weekend's interesting action in college football. Kalen DeBoer earlier in this last hour or so here on the program, Kalen DeBoer talked about his team, happy to get the win. He was asked about this being a cigar game against Tennessee, and he said, we're just looking to get a win. Didn't even talk about that. Interesting, because Josh Heupel, during his press conference today, he's talking about it was a rivalry game before Nick Saban got there, and it's still a rivalry game, even though Nick Saban is no longer on the sideline at the University of Alabama. Meanwhile, Hugh Freeze today at his press conference, he says there's no question 27 needs to touch it more. If you're unfamiliar with the Auburn roster, number 27 is Jarquez Hunter. He says that's the frustrating thing with some of our short yardage deals that they have been called and not executed at a high enough level where he actually touches it. We've got to get that corrected. Also mentioned that this week's opponent, Eli Drinkwitz and the Missouri Tigers, that Eli is one of his closest friends in the coaching world. Tennessee had some bad news today. Linebacker Keenan Pili, he will miss the rest of the season with a torn ACL. 6 games this year. Pili was tied with the most tackles on the team. He also recorded 3 pass breakups and 1.5 tackles for loss. So that is a big bit of news on the injury front for the Tennessee Volunteers.
We'll continue with your phone calls, 800-239-WJOX. As Pat mentioned, expected to be joined by Coach Bill Clark coming up to recap what happened and look forward to this upcoming weekend, another big weekend, not only in college football, but especially in the SEC. Let's go to Tim. He wants to talk parity. Tim, welcome in.
Thanks for having me. But before I ask the question that I was going to ask, Hugh Freeze, we're sick and tired of hearing that about 27 touching the ball. We know that. Start doing it. I mean, come on. He's like a broken record every week.
I'm with you, man. How many times are we going to have to hear feed Jarquez more? Okay, well, you said it. Now do it, right?
Yeah, exactly. But what I called about, guys, is maybe I'm looking at it differently, or maybe I'm not. But what I'm seeing here this year, what my question is, are we seeing the full effect of the NIL and the transfer portal this year? Because I don't see any teams blowing anybody out. I mean, we've got perennial cellar dwellers that are jumping up and playing the top of these conferences. Some of them are winning and playing them close. You look at Vandy's done. I mean, Mississippi State even played Georgia close this past weekend. I mean, you've got these teams. Do you guys think that this is happening because of the NIL and the transfer portal? Because I remember in years past, you had your Alabamas and your Georgias and LSUs. They're just blowing people out. Yeah, you might have one game in a season where they played somebody close, but most of the time, the ones they were supposed to beat, they beat pretty handily. And it just seems like each week I turn on the TV, and when I look at the scores, you've got teams that are supposed to be perennial, top teams that are in a dogfight with teams that are not.
I think I'm not going to put it all towards the transfer portal, but I think you'd be naive to think that there's not more parity because of it now. But I'm not going to say. I think if we went back and we looked at some of these, and you're right, it does just seem that way, at least from the way that we perceive it when we see some of these scores, Mississippi State and Georgia being in a dogfight. But then I can go back to just a couple of weeks ago and Missouri rolling in as a slight favorite over Texas A&M on the road, and then getting the doors blown off of them. I don't think that had anything to do with parity. I just think it's how we perceive certain teams heading into a week versus another team.
Well, that was just my question. I just was flipping through the scores this past weekend. I'm thinking, man, I can't believe that game's close. I can't believe this game's close, And I just wondered if that was the case, because, like I said, it seemed like in the past everything has just been, status quo. But thanks, guys, for taking my call.
And thank you, Tim. And quarterback's a huge part of it too. That position, we were talking about it, and Jeff Traylor, who's the head coach at UTSA. It helps when you've got a athletic quarterback who's played 8 years of college football, playing with some of the guys that he had around it. Now you have a UTSA team that is not even a shadow of what it's been in the past, because you don't have that quarterback. You don't have some of those pieces, but their 2 wins this year, one was over Houston Christian, and the other was over Kennesaw State, who was ranked next to last in the rankings of 134 FBS teams this week. It's just, and other teams get better. But I think the quarterback position has a lot to do with it as well.
Here's my theory, and it's just my theory. You can debunk it all you want to.
Election year.
No, not that.
Okay.
I think what's happening is that teams like Alabama and Georgia, they cannot fill their rosters like they used to with the depth. And when I mean depth, I'm talking about next Savage up. I'm talking about having a stable of 5 stars that are just ready to be plug and play immediately.
Yeah.
And the reason why is because now you've got, let's say, a lower rung SEC team. If they've got some extra NIL money and they go to a school like an Alabama or Georgia and they say, hey, do you want to be number 2 on the depth chart or number 3 on the depth chart? Or would you like to come here where we can give you as many touches and snaps as you want, and we're going to give you money that you're not going to get if you're number 2 or number 3 on the depth chart at Alabama and Georgia. Do you guys see my point there?
Oh, absolutely. And agree.
And then when you have injuries and you have certain aspects of your team that, let's just say that you had him figured to be your number 1 starting left tackle, and he doesn't get hurt, but he's not working out. Like, he's not your guy. Then all of a sudden you're going to go to number 2 on the depth chart, and that number 2 might have actually been your number 3 and number 4 because your number 2 left tackle is now the starting left tackle at Vanderbilt.
Well, let's just take Alabama. Let's just say that they have, and it might not be totally fair because you do have transfers that have made an impact that have come in on that roster. But let's just say that Caleb Downs is still there. Isaiah Bond is still there. You want to throw in another guy that would
Trey
have been
Omis
there.
would be pretty good right now.
Yeah.
Like a guy like that.
So how many of those guys, if you still had them on that roster,
I think
how much of a difference would that make Alabama? And you think back at some of those games and where the deficiencies have been.
Caleb Downs and Kyle Moore on the back end of that defense.
Right.
Well, look at what happened on Saturday when Damani Jackson goes down. You got to put a true freshman in there. And I thought Mbakwe and Mincy, like, they didn't play bad, but again, your backup is now a true freshman that has no experience. It's not another 5-star guy that's been in the system for 3 years.
Right. And see, that's where I think the whole depth is causing more parity, is just because of the injuries and attrition and other opportunities in the transfer portal. Teams are just not going to be able to stockpile that type of talent like you were able to do in the past. That goes for Alabama, Georgia, Ohio State. List goes on and on.
Well, you just said it. Look how much Ohio State spent on their roster. And what did they have to show for it when they left Autzen Stadium?
A loss.
A big old L.
And which of those teams got the better quarterback out of the transfer portal? The team that won.
And Dylan Gabriel almost went to Ohio State.
But
seemed like he wanted to go to Ohio State, but Ohio State was dragging their feet because they wanted to see what else was available in the transfer portal. And then he ends up at Oregon and possibly will play for a national championship this year.
We'll continue with your phone calls. Let's go to Chip. He wants to talk Alabama. Chip, welcome in.
Hey, how y'all doing?
Doing well. Hope you are.
Hey, y'all hit the nail on the head with the parody. I hate that word, but it's different. I mean, look at the last time South Carolina was healthy with Norris Sellers. What did they do? They beat Kentucky 31-6.
And they almost beat LSU.
Yeah.
Yeah, should have beat LSU. Took Georgia down to the wire. So like all these stupid Alabama fans. I'm an Alabama fan, Conrad. I'm 30 years old, but you're a couple years younger than me. We're youngins, but
boy,
because he got a little frustrated there.
Yeah, I have no idea. We didn't hang up on him. Chip, you're welcome to call back if you can gather your thoughts and your emotions. Because it did sound like that was just frustration. He couldn't put it into words, and he was done. Right after he said your name, Conrad.
Guess I sent him over the edge. I'm sorry.
Maybe.
Well, but I'm not a real Alabama fan, according to some listeners. So,
you are.
Take what I say with a grain of salt, everybody.
So we're just talking about parity, and just saw this, and this is fascinating. So here we are on October the 14th, and there have been no firings in college football. None. Compare this to 2022 when there were 5 power conference openings on October the 2nd. So just 2 years ago, you already had 5 openings. And here we are on October 14th, 2 weeks later on the schedule, on the calendar, and nobody's been fired yet. Does that surprise you that no one?
Yeah, a little bit.
Is it because of the college football playoff that maybe some of the bigger programs that could afford buyouts, that they're holding out some hope, maybe they can catch fire down the stretch and get their team in the CFP?
Yeah, and with some of these schools that maybe we would see go ahead and make a move, maybe they just don't see that list of candidates or maybe have their guy. But with some of these programs, it would make sense with the college football playoff looming, because if your team is bad enough right now and you're unsatisfied with your head coach, you're not going to the college football playoff. I don't know what it is, but it does seem like normally this time of year we would at least have one, whoever that may be. Now, we've already seen coordinators get fired.
Yeah.
But maybe schools are slower to do it. And now with, to your point, Pat, with looking at maybe some of that parity that we're seeing, going, let's not rush to judgment. Let's not burn the whole thing down. Maybe we ought to wait. And who really wants to pay another huge buyout?
I think that might be
probably the biggest.
Yeah, the latter.
Well, as we move further away from the hot weather, you know that your HVAC system has worked overtime all summer long, so make sure you're prepared for the months and years ahead with the Train Comfort System. Right now, Train's Unstoppable event offers you peace of mind with a 10-year warranty on parts and labor with select Train home comfort systems. To learn more, go visit them at train.com.
And Train also, not Train, I apologize, Twin Peaks brings us the Twitter poll question of the day. And we asked the audience, after narrowly escaping a win on Saturday, what will Alabama's final regular season record be? 11-1, 10-2, 9-3, 8-4. Right now at 41.7%, 9-3 is the majority in regards to what our listeners believe Alabama's final record will be in the regular season. 10-2 comes in with the second best record, followed then by 11-1. So a lot of hope there. And then 8-4, only 12.8% of the audience. Coach Bill Clark's going to join us next. This is 3-Man Front on Reaction Monday, Giants 94.5.
Monday Night Football tonight. The battle for New York, I guess. You got the Bills and the Jets. It was a 1-point spread last time I checked, Conrad. Over-unders at 41.5. But it started out at 2.5. So the line has dropped a little bit.
Bounce back week for Aaron Rodgers, maybe.
I hope so.
Maybe.
You know why? Because he's the only quarterback that I had available to play this year or this week.
Well, it's okay. My game comes down to Garrett Wilson, so I'm right there with you, buddy.
Well, if you have an older roof and we're thinking it may need to be replaced, you got to listen up. Our friends at Roof Max of Hoover, they have professional and affordable roof treatment scientifically proven to reduce the aging process of your asphalt roof. With Roof Max, you're going to have the protection of a brand new roof in only a few hours, plus save thousands with a safe, effective, and affordable natural treatment. Average cost of replacing your roof, average cost, $15,000 to $20,000. This is going to be pennies on the dollar. And what's going to happen with Roof Max? It resaturates your old, dirty, dry shingles with a natural bio-friendly treatment that can give you 5 more years of protection guaranteed. Get a free roof assessment from Roof Max of Hoover. Maybe you're trying to sell your house. Maybe you flip houses. This is a great alternative than spending all of that money. Get the free roof assessment from Roof Max of Hoover. Call or text them at 205-913-2243. Use promo code JOCKS for a 10% discount and the free roof assessment. 205-913-2243. Make sure you tell them Landrum from Jock sent you.
Joining us now on the Buyers Right Hotline, Bill Clark, former head coach of Jacksonville State and also UAB, joins us here on Three Man Front. Coach, I hope you've had a good weekend.
Yeah, I had a good weekend. Hope you guys did as well.
Well, we did. Of course, a lot of football fans in our neck of the woods kind of wringing their hands a little bit after a very interesting weekend down in Tuscaloosa. As you viewed that game from afar, just your input, just your thoughts on what took place and what happened to Alabama.
Well, as I talked to some people that, were asking me about it, and I said, well, first, we start with the W. They did get the W, but I know there was a lot of things that were questionable. I think first, I thought the defense early really played well. I think you had some really, some not so smart things that happened right before the half. Of course, I was always so careful about when we're backed up in the end zone. And, that's not always the thought process nowadays. It's let's be super aggressive and, that safety. And then, you get the interception and, and that just momentum, we call it the middle eight. And I think Coach DeBoer talked about that. But that right before half and then the start of the second half, that momentum going into halftime that they really gave away, I think it really changed the whole end of the game. Of course, the ending, and we all work on hands teams. Some people work on it. I worked on it a lot. That was unfortunate the way that went down, and they're really fortunate to get the interception at the end. So find a way to win, I always say, but obviously things they need to correct if they're going to to do the things I'm sure that their goals.
Coach, I'm going to put you on the spot, but on the defensive side of the ball, is there a particular trait, characteristic you saw from Alabama defensively? It can be something technique-wise, fundamentally, that you saw during the Nick Saban era that you're not seeing as much of, at least to be fair, this season from that defense?
Well, this is the question I put to a lot of people all the time. I think when and you got two mindsets. You've got an offensive minded head coach and a defensive minded head coach. Defensive minded head coaches want to score points. I just think, and this is not a knock to those other guys, but I think there's a toughness that invariably goes with defensive head coaches. Maybe they've been defensive coordinators. They still want to score points, but I think there's a toughness, there's a physicality. And I'm not saying Alabama's lacking that, but I do think that does seem to be not – well, and we said it at Vanderbilt. Maybe I am saying they are lacking a little bit, but I think the toughness maybe and physicality that is brought with a head coach as a defensive head coach, maybe that's what you're seeing a little bit. Now, we've also got to say they lost some really good players. You've got some guys in the secondary that come from different schools that maybe don't understand that mindset, but the physicality, the tackling, I do think they were better this week, but I think that's where it all starts.
Coach, how much time did you as a head coach, or did you leave this up to your position coach to at least educate or to go over certain situations? Because we saw a few times in that Alabama game, whether it was Bernard not taking a knee, he goes ahead and runs it into the end zone. You almost had a situation at the end of the game where, depending if the referee would have called it or not, whether that would have been obviously a touchback or would have been a safety, when Alabama got the big interception. How much time is spent talking to the players to try to at least make sure that they understand certain aspects of the game from an intelligence standpoint?
Yeah, I think that's something I was obsessed with. And you could talk to my players and coaches. We had a play the game script that we did every Friday that had every scenario. And if something would come up or I would see something new, we would add. But you're constantly trying to give them 30 seconds left in the game and you're up by and a half and you're up by 3, or the last play of the game, the ball's on the 8, the ball's on the 20. We could talk about this. Maybe this will be a great subject for us, on our podcast this week for Thursday night. But I think scenarios, situations, you're constantly doing it. You're trying to give them sudden changes and transitions and those things. It is the game, and it's so important. And it's, I always say, it doesn't matter what the coach knows, it's what the players know, and can they take that to the field.
Anyway, I know that we're going to break down the third Saturday in October coming up on the show, Coach. But just from how impressive Tennessee was on the offensive side of the ball, we saw some things that Oklahoma was able to do there in Norman. We thought that was the anomaly. But then Florida, they're able to have success in slowing down that Tennessee offense. Is there anything that has appeared to you that is different in those two particular games that they've done or they haven't done? Or do you think maybe we just jumped in too soon based on Tennessee and their early schedule?
I think both. I think we probably all got enamored. Their early schedule was not as tough. I think Oklahoma, though, and I want to give them a lot of credit because, of course, I know Coach Venables well. Defensively, I think that, remember we talked about the 6 safety look or the 3 safety or 6 DB look, 3 safety look. I think they gave a template to, and we talked about it on our show on Arkansas, copied that, and I think we saw the same thing out of Florida. Now, if you looked early in that game, Tennessee did try to make an effort to run the ball more. I don't think that's really who they are, but I think the template was created by Oklahoma, and people are stealing it and using it. And we talk about copycats, and I think that's what they're dealing with.
In regards to Alabama, going back to what you saw from a offensive standpoint, they're having a problem running the football. Do you see anything that jumps out right off the top of the tape to you from the offensive line standpoint, why they're not being able to run the football between the tackles better?
Yeah, I think you look at their O-line's pad level. This is one of the things I look at a lot is, are they straight up and down? I think a lot of people are guilty of that. They throw the ball so much, and that's one thing. If you look at an O-lineman, what you don't want to do is get in some different stance. Your pads are tilted forward for run and you're straight up and down for pass, but you've got to be able to come off the ball, and really the only real success I think they really haven't run the ball is quarterback run. So I think, it can happen when you throw the ball so much. And there's a lot of time that's got to be spent in pass pro. Don't get me wrong, but I think you've got to balance it with being able to come off the ball. And it all comes back to being able to run the ball when you need to run it. And maybe everybody in the stadium knows you're going to run it. So I think that's something that they've got to work on.
Coach Bill Clark joining us here on Three Man Front. He joins us courtesy of Donahue Chevrolet. All of our guests join us on the Buyers Right hotline. Coach, we got a big matchup coming up in Austin this weekend. But when you look at this Texas team and the schedule that they've played so far, dominant win in a neutral site game, I guess we'll call it, there in the Cotton Bowl against Oklahoma on Saturday, scoring the 31 unanswered after falling behind early. Is it Texas and everybody else, not just in the SEC, but in college football to you?
I do think it's Texas. I don't think there's any doubt it's them. And I would say complete team. I think that's what Sarkisian learned at Alabama under Coach Saban. I think you've got a really great offensive mind. He spoke at my clinic a few years ago, and it was Alabama practice schedules, and that's what you do. I mean, I'd say the same thing about hopefully guys that were with me. Hopefully they're able to take things that work for us. But I think they are very complete offense. I mean, their defense is playing well now. Once again, how good is Oklahoma's offense? But I think they've been tested. They had to go to Michigan. So I think they have been tested. Obviously, Georgia's got their back against the wall as far as not needing another SEC loss, but this should be a great game. But I do think they are no doubt the top. I think we would all agree on that. But I love how complete they are. and have depth at the quarterback. I mean, we could go on and on, but yeah, I think it's them for sure.
Unfortunately, Coach, it was another disappointing weekend for the UAB Blazer football program. They went to West Point, New York, and played an outstanding, now a top 25 opponent in the Army Black Knights. Unfortunately for UAB, now it's not going to get any easier in conference play, but I wanted to ask you about the aspect of the locker room. And you've been in numerous situations in your coaching career, whether it was high school or college, and just trying to keep those guys together when you're going through a rough patch. Kind of address that, if you would, not particularly for this UAB team, but just in general.
Yeah, for me, effort was everything. That was our calling card. And I think there's two ways to do that. One, you don't want to let down. I never wanted to let my dad down, who was a coach, and that's what I always wanted to get across to my players. We're playing for each other. It's love for each other. It's love for the university. We're playing for more than ourselves. I think effort. I did think their effort was better this week than it was, against Tulane. But I think that's what we're always fighting as a locker room. And we've got so many external forces fighting against these kids, and especially when there's anything negative. But you've got to control that. And you've got, how hard we play, that's a reflection on everybody in that building. And I always told every coach is responsible for how hard his kids play, along with me. But, you got to get them to play for all these things more than their self. And that's where it starts, and how hard we play and how much effort we give. And I hope that's the worry when you have tough times, especially when there's a lot of negative and you've gotten beat pretty bad. So hopefully that's something they can bring back.
Coach, let me just tell you, and I know that you saw it, but Bryson Daly, the Army quarterback, seeing him in close and up close and in person on Saturday, wow, he's built like a Tim Tebow, but meaner, just meaner.
Yeah,
like he's looking to punish somebody every single play.
Yeah, if he's meaner than Tebow, that's how impressive was he? I think that's another buzzsaw. And you remember I talked about that on my show. Navy's quarterback and Army's quarterback. When you get the right guy in those offenses, and they're hard to find, that can be tough and stay well because they're going to take a lot of hits. That can read all the reads, so they got to be intelligent. But that guy and the Navy quarterback, those two guys are special. But I know we're talking about the guy from Army right now. But gosh, physical. He was. I know I would love to have seen him in person. I wouldn't want to play against him, but very impressive.
No, he struck me as your kind of dude, because you could put him out there at linebacker and he would fill the hole and try to hurt somebody there as well. The only besides the game and the outcome, the only other thing that I will complain about is that cannon that they shot over 100 times inside of that stadium. It scared me every time. Thought I was ready for it. I wasn't, but I digress.
Well, that's why you got to limit them from scoring, so we don't have to hear that cannon. But
this is true.
Yeah, that's.
Well, he is Coach Bill Clark. And, Coach, you join us every single week. Your visit is made possible by your good friends there at Donahue Chevrolet.
Yeah, DonahueChevrolet.com. Go check those guys out. I'm, driving around in a Tahoe I bought from them. They've got all kind of deals going on right now, and they're going to take good care of you. So check them out.
Coach, we always appreciate the time. Thank you, and we will see you very soon for the Coach Bill Clark Show that airs here 6 o'clock on Thursdays.
All right. Look forward to it, guys.
Thank you. Coach Bill Clark, once again, brought to you by Donahue Chevrolet on the Buyers Right hotline for all of your insurance, financial, and HR needs. It's Buyers Right Insurance, a Higginbotham partner.
More three-man front on this reaction Monday. Paul Feinbaum, top of the hour. This is Jonks 94.5. Well, Arkansas appears that they are going to have Taylor Green back at quarterback against LSU this weekend. He got banged up against the Tennessee Volunteers, and they went with their backup, who performed pretty well. I mean, I guess if you're
you led him to a win.
If you're Bobby Petrino, I guess you're happy to know that you got two guys in case Taylor Green doesn't work too well. So that's the only bit of good injury news that we've heard in college football today, with everybody else being out.
Well, there's more good news, because if you want to catch the AL and NLCSs, you can do so at Twin Peaks and Hoover tonight at 6:30. You're going to have my New York Yankees taking on the Cleveland Guardians. And with only 4 teams left in the playoff picture, who do you have pulling through to this year's World Series? Catch every pitch of the AL and NL Championship Series at Twin Peaks and Hoover, where the bases are always loaded and the 29-degree man-sized drafts are always up to bat. Again, go visit our friends at Twin Peaks over there in Hoover.
We're going to get back to your text messages momentarily on the Courtesy GMC text line. Also, the phone lines are open at 1-800-239-WJOX. LSU over Ole Miss in overtime of the weekend, 29-26. Garrett Nussmeier was named SEC Offensive Player of the Week. He threw a tying touchdown pass to Aaron Anderson in the final seconds of regulation. Then he hit Kyron Lacey on a 25-yard scoring strike in overtime. Nussmeier did struggle most of the game. He threw 2 interceptions, but came alive late to finish with 337 yards and 3 touchdowns. Jackson Dart, he was sacked 6 times. I thought Ole Miss went and bought that big, nice, fancy offensive line this year. Best offensive line they've ever had.
That's what I heard.
6 sacks by the LSU defense. Dart threw for 284 yards. So now you've got Ole Miss sitting there at 5-2, 1-2 in the SEC. You've got Oklahoma coming up in a couple of weeks at Vaught Hemingway. Then you go to Arkansas, got Georgia at home, got a bye week. Then you go to Florida. Then you got the Egg Bowl. There's not a lot of room on that schedule to get you some big time wins outside of the Georgia game. And the way Ole Miss has played against Kentucky and now LSU, you might end up losing a game you're not supposed to lose, whether it's at Arkansas or at Florida.
My concern would be the expectations coming into this year. And if it was truly championship or bust within that football building, not just college football playoff, but believing that you had the right stuff to play for a national championship. These kids, they're well plugged in. And if the message after Kentucky was, guys, we just can't afford to lose any more games. We still control our own destiny. Let's go and let's take care of business. You wonder how much of the second guessing is happening now. And you mentioned it. I would put Georgia right now as at least 8, maybe 9-point favorite against Ole Miss. But if they believe that there's no saving this season as far as getting to a college football playoff, and you start creating that doubt, I could see them losing 4 games in the regular season based on the schedule you just laid out.
I mean, if you lose at home to Kentucky and then you lose at LSU, which LSU is a good team, but you've got to go to Arkansas.
Won't be easy.
You play Georgia at home, top 5 team, and then you got to go to Florida. I mean, is he down there playing a football game or interviewing with somebody?
That's a fair question.
Also on Friday, this happened late on. It was a little news dump on Friday afternoon. Ole Miss issued a statement addressing the fact that its program had been highlighted in national discussions about faking injuries. Ole Miss said it would provide relevant medical information to National Officiating Coordinator Steve Shaw, and that its coaching staff would speak with players to ensure we conduct ourselves properly. Well, if you watched the game the other night.
Yeah, that was brought up on the broadcast, wasn't it? And then right after they brought it up, what happened? Mysterious cramp.
I was about to say, that was probably my favorite ESPN stat I've ever seen. Of the 29 injury timeouts through the season so far, I was like, I don't know what intern found that stat out, but they did a great job.
I have but you know what? And here's the thing. I have no doubt in my mind that a lot of those injuries, air quotes, were not legitimate. But we've seen with them trying to address this. How are you going to prove it? There's no way that you can prove it. There's no way that you're going to be able to say that a individual is not feeling pain or didn't feel like they could go at a certain time. So until you come up with a better penalty or punishment or a way to decipher if a kid's faking it or not faking it, I would abuse it as well. I don't blame Lane Kiffin for doing it.
No, if the rule book doesn't prevent you from doing it, I mean, it's good coaching, right? I mean, it maybe is unethical in people's eyes, but
well, and I go back to what I said earlier about Dan Lanning. What Dan Lanning did at the end of that game against Ohio State was brilliant.
Yep.
Brilliant.
Utilize it.
Because the rule book states if you break the huddle with more than 11 players, the flag can be thrown. Okay? Well, they didn't break a huddle. They just had 12 guys or 13 guys out there on the field. And so it was not a dead ball penalty. So you just lost 3 or 4 seconds off the clock, and Ryan Day knew it. I mean, Ryan Day is sitting there yelling at the official. They've got 12 players. They got 12 players. And they didn't throw the flag till after the play was run, and you couldn't put the time back on the clock. And that time ended up costing Ohio State the game because obviously they ran in the middle of the field, took a knee, clock runs out, and you can't even get the field goal crew out there to kick the ball. So,
and you could tell the players were confused because they thought the clock was going to start on the snap, and it started when the official got set. And that was brilliant coaching.
It sure was. We've been telling you a lot about injuries all over the place. Tennessee announced today that Keenan Pili, he's going to miss the rest of the season with a torn ACL. In 6 games this year, he was tied on the team in tackles. He also had 3 passes broken up at his position and 1.5 tackles for loss. Graham Mertz, the quarterback at Florida, he is out for the year with a torn ACL. Notre Dame cornerback Benjamin Morrison, he's out for the season with a hip injury. And Cam Rising, according to the Utah, he has been shut down indefinitely. He will be back on the shelf. We also have news today of an injury of a major head football coach. This just in a few moments ago, Coach Mike Gundy at Oklahoma State. Well, we'll just let you listen to what he tells the media what is wrong with him.
Well, I had a little run-in with my cattle over the weekend, and I guess they've been watching us play and got headbutted. So I've got a bad eye that I didn't think would be particularly enjoyable for people when they were looking at my pretty face in a live interview. But more importantly, it's full of blood, and I get dizzy, and so it's not easy to be upright and be in a normal function. But other than that, I'm doing great.
Okay, this was not a full-grown cow. This was a
calf.
A calf, but went down to my cousin's house, and they lived in the country, and went and stayed there one weekend when I was a kid. And they had a bunch of head of cattle, but they also had a calf. And they said, I said, hey, can I go in? Can I pet the calf? Whatever. They said, fine. So I'm standing over the calf.
Mm-hmm.
Something like a bug or something annoys the calf where the calf throws its head up. My head is directly above looking down on this calf. Head butts me. I saw stars knock me out. I'm pretty sure that was my first confirmed concussion growing up before I started playing football.
How old were you?
8, 9 years old. But seeing stars and tasting metal in your mouth, that was the symptoms. I don't know what it was that annoyed them, but yeah, I can't imagine.
Yeah, so Gundy could not attend his weekly presser. He had to do it via Zoom, and they just had a stock picture of Coach Gundy instead of him being on Zoom.
I feel like that's on brand for him, though. Like, I like to know he's out there working with the cattle in his free time.
Probably just talks to him.
Goes
out there.
Definitely. They're his buddies.
He's got a mixed drink. Just like, guys, nobody else understands me, but you do.
I liked him better when he had a mullet.
It's a good look.
Was a good look.
I feel like that fat has gone away, right? I feel
Yeah,
like for
we
a
don't
year
see
or
it as
two, the
much
mullet
anymore.
was everywhere.
Yeah, the mullet with a mustache.
Yeah, now it's kind of gone away again. Can't wait for 10 years. It'll be back.
Tell Tate Ratledge over there at Georgia.
It could take a while to pay it off,
It's a
but
strong
that could be
mullet.
your next bet.
No.
Growing the mullet.
Nope. I enjoy being married.
All right, more Reaction Monday. We got time for some more calls. Calls are coming in as we speak. 1-800-239-WJOX.
$148, three-man front Reaction Monday. Busy show. A lot of your reaction, phone calls, and texts. We'll get back to your text in a moment. But also Hugh Freeze and his weekly press conference, Kalen DeBoer, his weekly press conference, and the coach Bill Clark. In this 1 o'clock hour, all of that can be found at jocksfm.com, and the three-man front podcast. AP basketball poll is out. I know maybe for some it's a little bit too early, too soon to be talking about basketball, but the matter of Alabama, Auburn, UAB, all three of those teams expected to have big seasons. Pat mentioned that UAB right now projected as the number one team in the American Athletic.
That is correct. The teams voted in the preseason, and they had the the majority of the votes. Memphis came in at number 2, and Yaxel Lindeborg is the AAC preseason player of the year coming from UAB.
Yep.
So strong accolades. And you were just talking about the Associated Press poll, in which Auburn was number 11, Alabama was number 2. UAB received votes.
Got 4 votes.
Yep, in the Associated Press top 25 poll. So we anticipate that this is going to be a really, really good basketball season for a lot of teams in our state.
And quickly, we'll get to Corey. He's in Hueytown. Corey, what's up?
Hey guys, how's it going?
Hey,
it's
Corey.
going, man. How are you?
Hey, it's time to get back to the friendly confines of Bartow Arena.
That's right.
Let's pack that sucker out on November the 4th as we got those catamounts coming in from Vermont, man. Hey, we need to pack that sucker out because it hasn't been a very good 6 weeks it hasn't been a very good year for UAB football. It's time to get back to watching a team and a coach that knows how to win and develop. Unlike Trent, Andy Kennedy knows how to coach and develop and recruit at a high level. It's time again. It's time to get back to Bartow Arena. Hey, let's repeat, man. Let's get back to the NCAA tournament in advance. Let's get back to it, man. Blazer Nation, it's time again. It's time.
Well, one thing's for sure, Andy's got a great roster, and Andy knows how to win.
Thank you, Corey.
So hopefully, Andy, the crowds in Birmingham will swell, and they'll support this basketball team because they're going to be exciting. They're going to be fun. It's going to be a really good basketball season for UAB.
Certainly should be. 800-239-WJOX. A lot of you have been trying to get in on the phone lines, and we will get to your phone calls as they come in here in the final moments of the show. Paul Feimam at the top of the hour. Going back to injuries and what some of you are saying, Lewis says, if you're waiting on a bunch of men to decide if someone is faking it, hashtag Seinfeld. I love what you did there. Very nice. Pat B says, on an injury timeout, let's make the injured player sit out until the score, turnover on downs, turnover, and can't re-enter the game until change of possession happens. Don't hate that.
Well, I think that was one of the criticisms for not only Ole Miss, but in this situation, Ole Miss getting a lot of the headlines around it was you had guys going down with an injury, and then 2 snaps later, they're back in the game.
This one rolls in. On the onside kick in the Bama game, the kicker did not put the ball on the tee. I thought that was a rule. Can somebody please verify? I love the show.
It's a free kick.
I was about to say, I thought that didn't matter, but.
This one rolls in. I'd rather listen to Bama Hater than listen to a Hugh Freeze Monday presser. He's not super animated.
Well, he's going to get Jarquez the ball finally.
Yes.
27 needs to touch it more.
Heard that one every week.
How about this one? I'm with Tim, Auburn fan who called earlier. Freeze calls the plays. Enough of the RPO. Give us a little more RUN. How much longer is Jeremy Pruitt in purgatory? Asking for a friend. Thank you, Mike. And
I saw that a lot. I guarantee you Rodney Orr had to monitor that message board pretty intently.
Anything on Squirrel White? Saw he was limping on the sidelines.
I have not seen anything on Squirrel.
Yeah, he went out late in that game on Saturday for Tennessee.
Been listening all morning. Haven't heard anything mentioned about the situation with Kirby shoving the player. Did I miss it? And what's y'all's opinion?
No, you didn't miss it. Matter of fact, let's listen to Kirby Smart. This is what he had to say after the game in regards to the incident, which had appeared on video that he had pushed the Mississippi State quarterback.
I was trying to get Schumann's attention. We were trying to change personnel. And I think it's the play they came over on our sideline, and I'm trying to get Schumann's attention. But no, I don't really remember it.
I don't mean to sound like a prosecuting attorney, because I've been accused on this show of trying to what did he say? I was taking my jabs.
Yeah, well, that's all you do is take jabs.
Just take jabs.
Yeah, that's all you do.
I'm just going to put my attorney cap on for a minute.
You throw jabs, you don't take them.
There you go. Let's listen to that one more time, very carefully, when he was asked about the situation that took place.
I was trying to get Schumann's attention. We were trying to change personnel. And I think it's the play they came over on our sideline, and I'm trying to get Schumann's attention. But no, I don't really remember it.
All right. I'm confused. you just told us you don't remember it, but then you were oddly specific about what you were doing when you supposedly came in contact with the quarterback. So which is it? No, I'm not being a smart ass. I'm just asking.
You were spot on. You can't tell me you don't remember that.
No, I'm watching it right here. There's no way that you can. You went forearm under.
So are you trying to get your defensive coordinator's attention, but then you just told us you don't remember what happened? So how do you remember that you were going after your defensive coordinator when you just said you don't remember what happened?
No, I completely agree. Somebody must have reminded him, though, because I saw today at his press conference, he said that he has reached out to Jeff Lebby and the player to apologize.
He should apologize.
And let me tell you something, and hats off
to Van Buren for not turning around and cold cocking him.
You better believe it, because when I first saw that, I thought, oh my God, this is Woody Hayes and Clemson. I mean, seriously. I mean, Woody Hayes lost his job. No, he took a punch. Kirby didn't take a punch.
No.
At a kid, but still, it was an awful look.
It was Georgia's staff. They slow down Van Buren when he's running, which you should do. That's a courteous thing to do, where he doesn't run over or trip or whatever. And he's just making his way back to the field. Doesn't look like he's talking any trash. He just happened to get in the way, and Kirby comes beelining down the sideline, taking his hat off because he's frustrated, trying to talk to Schumann, and then goes with a forearm shimmy.
Well, here's the interesting part, because you've got the video pulled up right now, and it's like watching the Zapruder film. I mean, okay, so he pushes him, but then he doesn't go say anything to Schumann. Look, he goes behind Schumann, and he goes over there by T-Rob. He's not even going to Schumann.
No. I'm like you. It's Van Buren. Maybe he just couldn't believe it, but yeah, I immediately thought, that was...
Kirby thought he was back playing DB at Georgia.
I was about to say, it wasn't a gentle shove. I'm not saying he was trying to hurt the guy, but it wasn't a little, let me get past you, buddy.
Got like 15 seconds. Steve, sorry, go.
You know what that means? T-Rob's actually calling the defense. That's what that
means. You're probably right. It's not Schumann, it's T-Rob.
You as well, Steve. Thank you. We appreciate all of you for your interaction, listening to us, watching us on YouTube and Jocks TV. Right back at it tomorrow. We'll talk to Mike Griffith, who covers the SEC and the Dogs, about the big game coming up this weekend, but also the shove from all of us.
The shove between the hedges?
The shove between the hedges. From all of us to all of you, thanks for joining us. Couldn't do it without you. Paul Feinbaum, the Paul Feinbaum Show is next on your home for college football and so much more. Jocks 94.5, JocksFM.com, the Jocks 94.5 app, and wherever you find people stream.